This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Hopefully, Easthampton Media, we are recording. I think we are. This is the Southampton Select Board meeting for July 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And could we start the meeting by standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. We are here at Town Hall, and tonight Rini is going to be remote participating. And so as we do that, if we have votes to take, we will do roll call vote. And with that, we will start the agenda. Do we have any open time for the public? I don't see anybody, unusually. I will say just, I'll say it for Tammy because she might have always been here. I was part of the ice cream social at Clark Chapman over the weekend, and that went off really well. I think they had close to 60 people, and everybody enjoyed their little dish of ice cream. And so thanks everybody for coming down to take a look at the house and enjoy some ice cream. So that was an event on the 4th of July itself. And hope everybody had a nice, enjoyable, and safe 4th of July wherever you were, hopefully with family and friends. So with that...
I did want to make one...
I'm sorry, yes, go ahead, Joy.
Sorry. We haven't met since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So I would like to make a statement to the citizens of Southampton, because I know the people that I have spoken to, that has been forefront on their minds and amongst discussions within their families. So I just wanted to briefly read a quote from the United Nations. They put that a statement that their human rights experts put out in regards to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And it begins with, legal protections for abortion access and abortion rights have been established under international law as a matter of ensuring women's ability to enjoy their legally protected human rights to life, health, equality, and non-discrimination, privacy, freedom from torture, cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment, and to ensure their freedom from gender-based violence. The right of a woman to make autonomous decisions about her own body and reproductive functions is at the very core of her fundamental right to equality and privacy concerning intimate matters of physical and psychological integrity. The revocation of abortion rights established by Roe signals is a major retrogression that will further entrench structural discrimination and violence against women and girls and all persons capable of becoming pregnant in the United States, end quote. And I just want to acknowledge to Southampton citizens, particularly, that we're very lucky to live in Massachusetts, a state that acknowledges the fundamental human rights for women, and that we should keep all fellow Americans in our thoughts and our prayers, make this country a safer place for everyone. And by that, I'm a call to action for everyone in our town to participate in local government and state government and national government, even on the minuscule level of Conservation Commission, Planning Board. Your voice matters. We care. We need kind, intelligent people involved in our government. So please come and join us here in Southampton.
Good. Thank you, Joy. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Joy.
Okay, next we have, I think tonight we have one presentation for us, and we have a presentation on the Ms4 Stormwater. This is the annual presentation and public outreach, and we have Mr. Thomas LaCourte from Tyne Bond. So Thomas, if you'd like to take the stage here.
All right, thank you very much. Your introduction was great, but I'll just introduce myself again. I'm Tom LaCourte from Tyne Bond. I know it says Thomas, but I go by Tom, so feel free to call me Tom. And as was stated in the introduction, this is the annual presentation on the Ms4 Stormwater Program. It's required, we were required to do this every year as part of the permit. So here, I'm just here to give you an update on activities for permit year 4, which recently completed, and kind of outline the next steps for permit year 5, which started Friday. So, I'm probably a new face to you. Emily Tully, who is the former project manager, has moved on from Ty and Bond, so I took over managing the MS4 program projects for our Western Mass clients back in December. So it's new to me. I'm learning, but we're getting there.
Southampton, too.
Thank you. Glad to be here. So again, the purpose of this presentation is just to provide the town with an ongoing update on its stormwater management program, what we've accomplished in the past year, what we're planning for the following year, and what happens in future permit years. And if we'll solicit feedback on the program if you have any. I've got time for questions at the end of the presentation. So. A lot of this may be review if you've sat through this presentation before, but just what is stormwater? It's rainwater that falls from paved surfaces and lawns and goes into the stormwater system. If it doesn't soak into the ground, it heads to the nearest storm drain, and those storm drains lead to what we call outfalls that dump stormwater into waterways. As the water travels along the ground, it has the opportunity to pick up trash, chemicals, and that results in stormwater pollution. Stormwater pollution is the fastest growing type of water pollution in Massachusetts. This sort of, again, just kind of gives you a picture of what that would look like. Some flowing storm drains as a result of a rainstorm. 40% of known pollution is known to come from stormwater. And the more impervious surface you have in your community, that contributes more to more stormwater because it reduces the opportunity for that water to soak into the ground. So that graph on the bottom left over there shows the more impervious cover that you have in your watershed, the more severely damaged the stormwater can become. Typical pollutants that you find in stormwater include trash, oil, fertilizer, sediment, sand, bacteria, just things that get picked up as the water flows along the ground. Stormwater is regulated under EPA's small Ms4 Stormwater Program. Ms4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. It's a program that is jointly administered by EPA and the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. It's been around for a long time. I think 2003 was the first permit that was issued. There was a second permit that came in 2016, which is the permit that we're under right now. And Southampton's MS4 area includes all the drainage within what's called the urbanized area. Fortunately, in Southampton, your urbanized area is pretty small. The map on the bottom there shows your area. There's only 4 small little sections, one in the northeast, the southeast corner. There's a small section where Swanson Corners is, and then kind of along the Easthampton border with Plain Street are the 4 areas where your MS4 urbanized area lies. And again, as far as other communities go, it's pretty small. So you guys lucked out a little bit there. Under the stormwater program, you filed a notice of intent, which was required under the program back in 2018. That authorized discharge, that created an authorization to discharge stormwater, and that was received in April of 2019. The initial permit had an expiration date of June 30th, which was Thursday. However, on May 16th of this year, EPA administratively continued the permit until a new permit is issued. Ironically, when the permit first came out, it was conceived as a 5-year permit, but it included provisions for up to 10 years. So I think EPA knew that it would take several years for a new permit to come out. The stormwater management plan, the initial plan was finalized in July of 2019 and is updated annually. As part of the MS4 program, there are 6 MCMs, or minimum control measures, that are used to measure success of the program. Those 6 are outlined here. Public education and outreach, public involvement and participation, an illicit discharge and detection and elimination program. 4 and 5 are both related to construction activities, construction site stormwater runoff control, and stormwater management for new development or redevelopment. And then finally, good housekeeping and pollution prevention that focuses on record keeping. So because Southampton falls within the Long Island Sound watershed, that's considered an impaired water body for nitrogen. So there are certain requirements that have to happen with respect to that. You also have Pequot Pond and Manhattan River, which are listed on the Massachusetts Integrated List of Waters as impaired water bodies for phosphorus. So that triggers other mechanisms under the permit. So looking back at permit year 4, which is the permit year that just ended on June 30th, we'll talk about what the town has done with respect to the 6 minimum control measures. Public education and outreach, there are annual messages that go out to businesses, institutions, and commercial facilities. Southampton is part of the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, Connecticut River Stormwater Committee. They handle a lot of that, of a lot of the required messaging that is required to go out for you. And again, there's certain messages that go out at certain times a year that deal with certain topics that they help you out with. The second is public involvement and participation. This meeting is part of that. Every year there's a summary of activities that is presented at a public meeting. Your stormwater management plan is available online for the public to review and look at. And then there's the National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. Again, that helps with preventing things from getting into the waters by having a program that deals with that. The illicit discharge and detection and elimination program looks at your outfalls that eventually drain to a waterway. They're analyzed and looked at for nutrient loading. They're prioritized based on how much potential pollution is associated with those. As part of some dry weather sampling that was done back in 2020, we helped the town with sampling of 5 outfalls for signs of illicit connections. We didn't find any significant vulnerability factors with respect to E. coli or surfactants. There were a few outfalls that exceeded the benchmark values for nitrogen and chlorine. While that doesn't trigger anything with respect to the significant vulnerability factors, it is something to kind of keep watch for. And one of the things that we have planned, we had hoped to conduct it in year 4, is going back to some of those high nitrogen outfalls and doing some wet weather sampling. We weren't able to do it in year 4 because we're waiting for some wet weather. A little bit tonight,
Yeah,
but,
just like today, yeah.
but it does require a significant amount of rainfall. We have been tracking it. I know a couple weeks ago we thought we were going to have a day where we could go out there. We got the sample bottles ordered. We coordinated with Randall. We had everything all set to go. Then the forecast changed. So we haven't been able to get out there. But we are watching the forecast. We are looking to get out there and do, it's probably about a half day's worth of sampling. So that still needs to be done. As I mentioned, the control measures 4 and 5, we usually lump those together because they're very similar. They're related to construction. 4 is related to, existing construction, whereas 5 deals with, 5 deals with post-construction stormwater management, but the 2 are related hand in hand. the town has revised its bylaws to clarify some additional definitions, clarify applicability to new and redevelopment projects that exceed thresholds. So a lot of that has been done. A lot of the activities under this permit program are kind of ongoing activities that you kind of look at every year. Additionally, with the MS4 program, you want to look at low impact development techniques and what are some possible things that can be done associated with those, looking at incorporating ways to use the stormwater in your construction instead of, kind of get a beneficial use out of it, instead of it just draining to the waterways. So again, the permit kind of outlines some of these requirements, towns following them. One of the things, I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but one of the items is a municipal stormwater retrofit inventory. In permit year 6, you are required to install some sort of best management practice that will help with some nitrogen or phosphorus removal within the watershed on a municipal property. So, as part of that, we're looking at what are your town-owned sites? Where can we get the most bang for your buck in terms of retrofit opportunities? Permit also requires you to look at your street design rules and regulations and assess your regulations for green infrastructure opportunities. That's been done. You're on track with that. And then finally, the 6th minimum control measure is good housekeeping, pollution prevention, record keeping. You conduct quarterly what are called SWIP inspections, stormwater pollution prevention program inspections at the highway garage. Those are required to be conducted, every quarter. One of those should be during a wet weather event, to make sure, and the town is doing that. Implementation of good housekeeping SOPs, meeting your annual requirements, following your annual requirements, record keeping, they're all a part of the plan. This kind of summarizes, I know it's kind of small and hard to read, but this is from the annual report that gets submitted at the end of September of every year, that kind of summarizes what your activities have been and looks ahead to the next year. And, this kind of lists all the annual requirements. There are a lot. Fortunately, a lot of them are pretty simple, and again, they're just continuing what you've been doing all along. So coming up in the next year, permit year 5 began on Friday. And again, public education and outreach, you're going to continue with your annual messages, focus your messages towards developers and industrial facilities. Again, kind of going along with what you've been doing. Public involvement and participation, continue to make the stormwater management plan available. Keep that on your website if people have comments and look at it. Addressing those comments. That document, again, gets updated every year. So there's an opportunity to address any comments or concerns that somebody has. And then you can consider other ways to get the public involved in the stormwater program. Continue with catchment investigations. This is kind of a long-term thing, but all catchment investigations have to be completed by the end of permit year 10, which we're 5 years away from. But just keep inspecting under dry weather conditions, making sure that there's no pollution that we don't know about getting into anything, and just keeping an eye on it. Again, with the construction site and post-construction site stormwater runoff control and management, just again, you've revised your bylaws to incorporate some best management practices there. It's just making sure you're enforcing those bylaws, continuing to track site plan reviews and inspections and make sure they're consistent with the new bylaws that you've enacted. And again, just with respect to housekeeping, just make sure you're continuing with your inspections, implementing your good housekeeping SOPs, and staying on top of your annual requirements and record keeping. The impaired water requirements, I mentioned the nitrogen and phosphorus source reports. In permit year form, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission did complete the nitrogen and phosphorus source identification reports for the town. Those are reports that are required under permit year 4 for certain permittees that have impaired waters within their urbanized area. But they've completed that report. They've identified potential catchments that have high nutrient loadings and identified some potential retrofit opportunities, which you might look to explore in permit year 6. So just in summary, Southampton is actively meeting all its MS4 requirements. The annual report is submitted to EPA and Mass DEP by September 28th, 2022. Those forms just became available last week, so we've got those forms, and we typically help the town with completing those and getting those done. So you can expect to see those within the next couple months. And again, just looking ahead, a lot of requirements under the permit are just continuing with annual requirements, maintenance, inspections, keeping track of data. Permit year 5 is actually kind of a light year as far as the permit goes, which is kind of a good thing because permit year 4 was a bit of a heavy year. So it's, some activities for permit year 5, again, just continuing with what you're already doing. But permit year 6 has the next big item, which is installing a demonstration retrofit BMP on a municipal property. So one of the activities we'll probably consider for permit year 5 is just diving into that a little bit more, looking and planning and scheduling for that. What are some opportunities? Where could we install that? Continue some catchment investigations. And again, by the end of permit year 10, by then all the catchment investigations need to be done. So we've still got some time to go on that. That's all I have. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah,
all right.
Very informative. Yeah, questions? Francine?
On screen 9, in terms of public education, what you have here is kind of a sample. Is this the sample of the communication that's disseminated?
Yeah, on
Emulsion, composted grass clippings, those kinds of things.
That right
Talking about fertilizer and the content that people would use on their lawns.
right.
Okay, I guess my question is, does it get any more specific? I don't know how many people read the labels or how we inform the lawn services in town about the things they should be avoiding in their applications on people's lawns. Is there any way that people could access a list of products that you consider safe to use? People don't go through, the contents on the fertilizer bag.
Right,
To make
right.
a decision whether they buy it or not.
Right.
Just make it easy, is I guess I'm asking.
Right. We haven't been involved in the development of the public education materials that get disseminated. And to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of them, but I suppose that, and I don't know how the relationship works between you and Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. I know, again, they sort of handle a lot of the.
Yeah, I would assume there've been articles, from time to time we get emails, I know, from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, how widespread they get, though, to the town. I mean, if they're only coming to our town emails and our town website,
Right, but that might be a consideration to reach out to them and say, hey, as part of the, activities, can you, I'm going to get out of here for a second because I have, in one of my notes, it talks about like what the schedule is.
more of a proactive kind of schedule.
Yeah, so in the fall, it's usually something about leaf litter. In the spring, it's something about lawn care. So that might be an opportunity where you say, hey, in this message that you're sending us to send out to our customers in the spring, can you talk about like what would be a good fertilizer versus what would not be a good fertilizer, and or a good way to educate the lawn care companies and
Simple messages.
And get people's attention. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could I ask a question about that,
Yeah,
please?
go ahead, Rini.
Yeah, so does Pioneer Valley Planning Commission get funds to put out the public education? The reason I'm asking is because the Open Space Review Committee had actually put out an educational pamphlet, and it was relative to the Barnes Aquifer, but it was a lot of overlapping information about chemicals in the lawns. They also talked about salt versus sand in the wintertime, that sort of thing. So do they get funds for that?
I'm to be honest, I don't know.
I don't know if Ed knows.
I don't know what their funding source is.
Yeah.
Just like if they're our source of public outreach and it's mandatory and there's a calendar, they must be getting funds to do it. And I haven't gotten anything from them, so that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. Maybe it's something we can reach out to. I don't know who's the proper person is. If it's, I know Patty Gambarini was helping us with the water issues, but I don't know if it's she or, yeah. So maybe, through her or somebody, we could reach out and just find out, what gets done and are we on the schedule somehow to be receiving notices, and how frequently do they come out and where do they target those resources? But yeah, I don't think I've seen anything much recently. And I guess, again, the question comes, it may come to a smaller pool, but it's not necessarily out to the general public. And that's what I don't know. So we can clarify that a little bit further. Anybody else have questions? I've got one or two. Yeah. So if I understand here, you said, I think something about in here there were to identify possibly 5 town-owned sites for potential to retrofit.
Right.
So to identify them in this coming year, 5? With the idea to retrofit 1 in 6?
In 6.
Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's part of the work that has to be ongoing this year, is to look at where would be the most likely of those 5 sort of problematic sites.
Right. And some of that's been done on a preliminary basis. I think, the plan for year 5 is to dive a little deeper into that.
Sure. Okay.
Because the Pioneer Valley, the nutrient report that PVPC did for you guys should have some identification of opportunities in there.
Okay.
And then, before you commit to something in year 6, you might just want to look at it with a little.
Okay. Well, one of the things, I haven't had a chance to look, but one of the things that we're going to be doing is revamping our town website over the next few months. And so I'm guessing that probably our stormwater management plan for the town is up there, but I don't know that anything from PVPC in their reports that we would, what you just mentioned, I'm not sure that that would be on our town website or not. So, I mean, as we update our town website, we want to be sure that some of these resources are available to the citizens and just understand, for those that are interested, to go and take a look at that. And hopefully we'll have a bit more user-friendly website that would allow them to find these kinds of things.
So the public education material that they provide to you, do they provide it in the form of like flyers that you send out with bills, or like how?
I honestly can't think of anything recently, but it would probably be something to insert in a tax bill if it was to come about. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Yeah. Randall would know, and he's not here.
Yes, it's been done 2 ways. One is like an insert in the tax bill, and the other is being posted to the Highway Department Facebook page.
Oh, okay. All right, so there's a couple places, but I think we could probably get a little bit broader dissemination of information.
And certainly
out.
like scanning it electronically or getting an electronic copy of it and throwing a PDF on your website would be
getting a little bit broader dissemination would be a good idea. And I think one thing I just wanted to clarify, you mentioned something earlier, so there were, if I understand, this urbanized area, so even though we've got culverts and whatever all over town, right, we're doing a culvert asset management inventory soon, hopefully, but you're talking about just 5 key sites 5 key areas of town that are considered urbanized, which is where some of the major problematic issues of chemicals have been found.
Right.
I'm understanding that.
And again, your urbanized area is very small.
small, right.
I mean, we've got, there are some clients that we're dealing with that, like, their whole city or town is the urbanized area. So,
Yeah, but as you're talking about.
but for you, I mean, I haven't looked lately at the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission report where to see what they've identified as opportunities. Maybe yours is so small that, like, maybe it might be hard to find 5 municipal properties
Yeah,
within the
okay.
urbanized area.
And so suppose we find the one, and we've got to then program the idea of retrofitting it for year 6 of the plan. Is that something we have to go search for money for like grant money, or is this something from the Clean Water Trust, or where does the money come from to do the retrofitting of something divine?
It depends, like, how detailed you want to go with it and where it would be. I mean, it can be as simple as something as, like, installing a rain garden on a property, which is relatively inexpensive, probably wouldn't require you to, like, seek out funding for that. But there are some pretty low-cost options.
Okay.
It sounds intimidating, but there are some low costs.
No, I mean, it sounds like, I just didn't want us to get into one of these things where something is sort of mandated, quote unquote, and then it's like, well, great, but where's the money to do whatever the project is that we've, decided to do, so.
Right, and I think as part of, what we would help you out with in year 5 is, kind of identifying, what are the potential opportunities, what's going to give you the most bang for your buck, but also what's not going to cost a lot of bucks either. So.
Yeah, okay. Rini, another question?
Well, I just had 2 things. Tom, do you know the date of the E. coli that was found in the Manhan River? Well, the chart didn't have a date on it. Do you know when that was, or is it current?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Because I know when I was liaison to conservation, there was an issue around Moose Brook, and I think because of the cows or one of the farms, and I know that by the time I was no longer liaison, it got resolved. So I was just curious if this is a new incident or not. The other thing I support a lot of public outreach and education, and I think, we could do more about, like, rain barrels, for example, or this weekend with the holiday weekend, I ended up clearing out, because it was a heavy rain, there was a lot of pine needles all over the storm drains. So I don't know if you have any information that might be helpful, or if there's anything that homeowners might be able to do, relative to this. It would be really helpful to be able to provide more education to our residents.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really in the business of providing public education materials.
Yeah.
Again, I think your relationship that you have with PVPC would help deal with that.
Okay. I think we should probably reach out to them then. Thanks.
I mean, like, if we came across something and found something and said, hey, this community is doing this, we would send it along, but.
Okay.
You're more on the engineering side.
Yeah, we don't really develop that sort of stuff.
Right, understood, yeah.
Okay.
And just one last question. You mentioned in here somewhere about development and redevelopment, and so there was a mention on one of these slides about some 40,000 square feet of earth being moved or something?
Yep.
So even if that's not in one of your 5 urbanized areas, I mean, that would still have an impact, would it not, in terms of, large clearing of land for a new subdivision or something like that, that even if it's not in that urbanized area, that would still have an impact in terms of our stormwater runoff, would it not?
Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but those don't necessarily get monitored through the program.
I mean,
Because they're not in the urbanized.
Yeah, I mean, they're there are certain, EPA has certain construction standards, that deal with, how much surface you're disturbing, and you still have to, whether it's in the urbanized area or not, you still have to have measures in place that control.
So you would have to have either maybe if it was near wetlands, obviously you need those kind of permits, but maybe a DEP permit or something like that would be still something that a homeowner or a developer would have to apply for, perhaps, if they were clearing a large area of land for a new subdivision or something?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious how that works. Okay. Okay, no other questions from me. Anybody else?
I wanted to mention, just apropos of this discussion about maybe having to make some kind of investment, we've got some guidelines on an announcement for a revolving fund for water supply and infrastructure projects.
Just a new one that just came
Yeah,
out?
it
Yes.
came in today.
Yeah.
Right.
Something
Yeah.
that we might want to take a look at.
Right. Yeah, I think this is a new, another asset management grant through the Clean Water Trust, which I think both Ed and I and Randall have talked about it a little bit, because that would follow on naturally to the culvert management one that we've already applied for under the MVP program.
Yep.
And this is a similar, could be an expansion of what we've already applied for, but just a different program. So one of your folks at Ty and Bond had reached out to us, actually, just saying, hey, by the way, this is coming out, so,
Okay.
keep it in mind, so, yeah. Good, all right. Well, thank you for coming. We
All right.
appreciate the presentation. And,
Thank you for having me, and,
thanks. All right,
all right,
so hopefully we'll see you next year, too,
all right,
if not before. All right, no, seriously, thank you for coming.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you very much, Tom.
No problem. You too, I know.
right. We'll let you do all your unplugging there if you
Yep.
can figure that out. All right.
Oh, and before I forget, just want to remind the select board that as part of our stormwater bylaw, there is provisions in there as far as needing permits. And I can't remember if it's 40,000 or 44,000.
Yeah, okay, I was thinking of something. Yeah,
The amount of money kicks in at
okay.
from the planning board.
I think 40,000 is
Yeah.
kind of the standard
Yeah, that's what I,
threshold.
Sounds what I like.
that's what I remember too, yeah. Okay, sounds good. All righty, well, we'll just keep moving on here. Quarterly reports, we actually don't have any tonight. So let's move right on to the town administrator's report. Ed, please.
Sure. I have been told that Representative Pease, Representative Savadoza, and Senator Bellis were successful in adding an amendment to the bond bill to include $100,000 for the acquisition of the right-of-way for the rail trail. The next step would be to the governor's office or the governor's signature.
And just to note that, if that's true, then that makes up for the $100,000 that we did not get through the Department of Housing and Community Development grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
This would substitute for it.
So no going back to CPC? Was that, no, okay.
Nope, not at this point, nope. So this, from what we've heard on the grapevine, it's been approved. I think it's just probably just waiting the governor's signature, so we may be a little bit premature in saying it, but I think it's true.
The two steps are line item veto. Yep. And then the other step is, if it stays in, then we will have to convince the governor to actually
Release the money, right,
those funds.
right. So that's all good. Go ahead, yep.
We have received notification from Mass DOT that their Highway Division's Project Review Committee, PRC, has evaluated our redesign of the Phase 1 East Street Road Rehabilitation Project and determined that it is eligible for federal aid highway funding. This will now be further designed and must be fully funded by the Transportation Improvement Program. And Southampton will be responsible for any costs associated with the design, the right-of-way acquisition, and environmental permitting to go along with having it placed on the tip. VHB has been very helpful in moving this new plan along with Mass DOT, and VHB will be continuing to design and engineer this plan, which will encompass from Route 10 College Highway to Whispering Meadow Lane, East Street.
And the estimated amount on that in the letter?
And I told by the top of my head, 11 million and some change.
Yeah, $11,411,985 as their estimate to do that. And basically, we've got 2 years from the date of the letter, which is June 16th, to put a lot of things into place and
Everything along, correct.
keep on going so that it really does make it on the DOT's official list. But yeah, it's good news at least. I mean, we've got that much.
Just to let you know that the second pour of the concrete for the decking on the new East Street Bridge will occur this Thursday, July 7th. And as you are probably aware, Christine Fowles and I made the trip to Milton, Mass. Last Tuesday morning for the official presentation of the Mass Trails grants. Southampton for the Greenway Design, Engineering, and Permitting is receiving $300,000.
Yeah, so, one more down. More to come, there's more in the hopper.
Keep working on it.
Yeah.
And the second field sign, which the Park Commission received funding from the Community Preservation Committee, has now been installed at Conan Park by the corner of Route 10 and Clark Street. It looks just as terrific as the first one, which was installed at Labrie Field. The quotes for the Conservation Commission, Manhan Meadow Sanctuary Trail Restoration and Building were open last Monday evening. The apparent low quote was for $39,775. I will be checking the paperwork which was submitted with the quote along with the references they listed for like-type projects this week. And I have received confirmation that Charter Spectrum has officially ended our licensing agreement for the use of the property at the highway garage and has turned the shed building over to the town.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I have been in verbal contact with the treasurer of the Holyoke Beagle Club and explained the licensing agreement which we would like to enter into with them for the area that their fence encroaches on town property along Glendale Road, and that if they transfer or sell the property at any point in time, that the fence will either have to be moved or removed at that time. As a follow-up to our conversation, I have sent them the draft licensing agreement so that may be shared with the other club officers. They will get back to me with their response to utilizing and entering into a licensing agreement for this small encroachment issue. And then upcoming select board meetings July 19th and select board meetings for August to be determined.
Okay. Great. Okay.
I just have one question. What is the plan for the shed/building?
The charter building?
The charter building. Do we have a plan?
Randall at the time said,
Storage?
gave him the option of whether to tear it down or we take it over. He said he could use it for storage.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Reedy?
I just want to say thank you to the Grants Committee. That's a huge accomplishment to get another $300,000. And I was just wondering if either Chris, you or Ed could just remind everybody where we are at in terms of funding to purchase, funding to construct the engineering and all that, and what we still need.
Sure. Try and give it a whirl, and Ed fill in. But now with hopefully the news that we have on the bond bill, this $100,000 that hopefully we'll make it signed on the governor's desk and released to us, that will complete the portion of money that we have available, tied in with the money that we got from community preservation through the town meeting, and the residents of Southampton approved that last year, to actually acquire the right-of-way to the railroad. And so that was around $350,000, $370,000. So with that $100,000, that should be the complete amount of money we need for that right now. This $300,000 is a sort of the first foray into the next phase, which would then be the design, permitting, and engineering. It's about probably a half to maybe half of what we need. We probably need closer to $600,000 to $900,000, depending on how prices have changed. But we have another grant in as well. We have another $200,000 grant application into Mass Trails in addition to this one that we just received. And we also, if you recall, we stuck our hat in the ring on a big $1 million federal grant for the RAISE program, which we have not heard anything on yet. And I'm kind of thinking maybe by August we'll hear on both of those. So I think in the next couple of months we'll know more or less whether we've got anything more coming towards that, or we have to keep on looking for new grants. But we've got a good down payment, at least close to half, on the permitting and design of the design phase. And then all of this obviously leads into the money that's waiting for us at DOT on the tip, which is somewhere around the $6 million figure, which I believe we can access in 2025, I'm thinking it is, but we can't access that unless we have shown all this progress. I mean, these are all preliminary steps that have to have been done in order to even access that money. So that money's been long sitting there waiting for us, but, without progress on all these fronts, we would have risked losing it. So we have made some great strides forward on this, and obviously once things come into play, and especially once we can close on the acquisition of the railroad itself, then a lot of the work is going to transfer over to the Greenway Committee. I think Aaron Tauscher and crew are going to end up doing a lot of work in terms of, more public education outreach. A lot was done years ago, but it's been sitting and waiting, and, things have changed, new people in town, new abutters, whatever. So there'll be more coming, I'm sure, in terms of public meetings and outreach to the citizens, just to confirm what they would like to see, perhaps, in some of the design features. But Ed,
Yeah,
is that kind
great.
of, yeah?
You nailed it.
Yeah, so that's kind of it. So
When did our attorneys last reach out to the railroad? Because the next step, obviously, is to get, that right away.
Right.
Is there anything that we can do to expedite it, or anything our legislators could do?
Well, I think not much, but I think what we've heard lately, we know that the railroad they're doing their part. They at the last time we met, I think when we talked about it, they had a 90-day arrangement with DOT for DOT to sign off on that. That's coming to an end now, so hopefully that will have concluded, and then there's still some more work for the railroad to do, and then it comes back to the town for one more thing for us to do. But, I mean, I think the last we heard, Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were talking maybe November-ish closing?
I'm thinking like the beginning of December.
Beginning of December, okay, to maybe close on the actual acquisition. So probably another 3 or 4 months compared to what we had hoped for, but it looks like it's on schedule. It's just moving at its own pace, and everything takes its own review timeline, it seems to be. But
Yes, and once either Mass DOT signs off that they aren't going to exercise their right of first refusal on the right of way, or the 90 days goes by, at that point, the railroad attorney will be able to file with the Transportation Board for the rail banking, and once they do that, there's either 3 or 4 steps that the town, which KP Law will help us with, has to do within 30 days of the railroad filing with the Transportation Board.
yeah, so we're getting there.
This is all happens after we get the $100,000 through the bond bill, correct?
Well, the $100,000 is a piece of the money that we need to actually
Get the right of
acquire
way.
yes, yeah,
So we're not going anywhere without that.
right. And if,
Yeah, and but we need the governor's signature. Do we have, were we given a timeline for when that was going to be?
No, we just heard I just talked to the reps on a couple of days ago, and they said that, yes, it's made it through, but they're probably just waiting at the governor's desk with the holiday weekend and so forth. It's whenever he gets around to signing the bill. So we don't have a timeline on it yet, but it's moving through the system, and
Just making
they
a
were
list
all
of
very...
all the things that we need to wait on.
Yeah, no, they were all very, very, Rep. Sabadosa in particular was very confident that it had made it through its hoops and was probably just waiting for signature and official announcement. So with that 100,000, that will add to what we already have, and that would be the final amount we need to actually do the acquisition, okay? If for some reason that doesn't come through, then yes, we need to scramble and figure out another 100,000, but we're not going in that direction because we believe it's going to come through. I'm being the eternal optimist tonight.
I believe as a wild card, I believe the first Mass Trails grant we put in for $100,000 is either acquisition.
It might have been both, yeah.
It would be nice to use that for design rather than acquisition,
Right.
but I think we do have a little wild
Yeah,
card there.
we tried to couch it a little bit because we weren't sure of our timeline. So I think we're moving okay. We're going okay on that. So at this point in time, anyway, that's looking positive. And just a note, I've got a text message from somebody listening saying that a couple of us are hard to hear. So please speak into your mics when you're talking.
Well, just on that, I went back and watched the last recording. These 3 microphones are dead. Your voice is getting picked up over there, and we have to, like, I don't think anybody can hear me at home right now, even talking like this.
Oh, really?
Just based off the recording of the last meeting, so.
Okay.
I can scroll it.
All right, well, we'll be sure to shout in then. I don't know what's happening. Easthampton Media is listening, so hopefully they can adjust some volumes if they need to. Okay, any questions for Ed on his report of things offhand? Quite a bit of information, some things moving forward for sure. A couple ones that have been on our pending list for a long time, the Charter Building and the Beagle Club. I'm glad to see those moving somewhere, that we don't have to keep looking at them on our pending list.
I did have to help me with some contact information for the Beagle Club to move that along. So,
good.
Thank you, John.
Yep, perfect. Okay. All right, let's jump into some select board reports. Anybody have anything? Joy, how about we start?
Sure. Planning board, they're meeting next week, they're meeting tomorrow, tomorrow evening. They're just working on E-code updates and questions that have to be answered before their August 25th deadline, and cleaning up language to conform with MGL that is inconsistent in regards to their zoning bylaw revisions. Conservation Commission, as we heard, met last week in regards to the Manhan Meadows work to be done. Their next meeting is July 11th. They had a lot of questions about the railroad money, but I think we answered that. And they're just wondering who their new liaison will be. Open Space is discussing potentially expanding open space membership, and I think they'll bring that to us at their next annual report. There's lots of work to be done. They're going to be also voting next meeting, July 19th, in regards to Southampton doing a partnership with Kestrel to conserve more open lands in regards to Kestrel's rules, and it's more of like a larger project. We'll see a presentation on that because the board eventually will have to vote on that. So hopefully the chair for the Open Space Committee will be here to present on that. And Housing Authority. So they're in the process right now of purchasing that plot of land, and they had some questions in regards to the purchase process and I guess the question was, does town council, are they involved with the purchase, or is it something that they need to look for another local real estate attorney? No, it's... Well,
town council is going to represent them.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you. I'll bring that back to them. And I believe their next meeting is also July 11th.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's all.
Good, thanks. Rini, by remote, have you got something?
Yeah, I do. Hang on, let me just bring up the file, okay? Mm-hmm. I have something I want to read also from the Board of Assessors. We need some clarification on something, but I'll start. There's not really that much. The Senior Center Building Committee met right after we had the joint meeting last time, and they finalized the RFQ, and I believe that's already been posted. The Public Safety Building Committee has not met. They're meeting on the 11th at 4:30. The Building Feasibility Committee is meeting on this 18th at 12:30. CPC hasn't met, and there's no meeting planned. COA is not meeting in July. The next meeting is August 10th at 4 o'clock. And lastly, the Board of Assessors met today. And Ed, we'll need a little bit of clarification, but I just want to read something from the assessors. Two things. One is they have been entertaining some presentations on aerial photographing. It's going to be a huge asset to their current software to be able to do aerial investigations in terms of they can measure. They have all kinds of angles to things. There's also an unlimited number of licenses available. So Conservation Commission, fire, police, highway, it can be used by any department in town. And so they have been entertaining some presentations by a couple of organizations. One's called Eagle View, one's called Near Maps. And so they, basically found a company that is able to sign a 3-year contract. They interfaced with Vision software, and they had provided, I think, Bradley some information last week that we were hoping would land on the select board agenda for tonight in terms of a line item transfer to be able to make this happen in this particular fiscal year, because it involves additional funds that are available from assessors, principal assessors line, as well as the maps line and the software line. So they wanted to transfer it all over to the software line in order to make this purchase. And I think there's a problem, and I'll ask Ed to speak to it, but if you would allow me to just read the letter that the Board of Assessors sent over. It says, the Board of Assessors decided to use some of the FY22 excess funds from not having a full-time principal assessor to enhance our office capability. And by the way, I mean, I think there's the ability, certainly over a 3-year period of time, to increase the tax base based on this particular software. So with aerial imaging that can interface with our vision software and can be used by other departments, the Board of Assessors got 2 bids from 2 different companies. One of them was $25,000 a year. That was not acceptable. That's the annual subscription. But another company, Near Maps, there was a 3-year subscription for a discounted price of wait a minute, I don't have my glasses. Hang on. I want to get this right. $16,500. We feel strongly that the use of this excess funds will help with the efficiency of the assessor's office and increase tax revenue. They said that they spoke to you, Ed, while you're on vacation by phone to be sure we had proper wording for this subscription, and we signed a contract with Near Maps because of the price. We gave a form to Bradley last week for tonight's meeting. We expect to take remaining funds from the principal assessor wage line and remaining funds from the cyclical inspections and move them into software support. We expected that transfer of funds would be on tonight's agenda. I don't believe it is. Yeah. So that was what they contacted me by phone today because they had a meeting that I wasn't able to go to late this afternoon. And so we need to discuss both of these issues, the line item transfer as well as the contracting. What I believe, Ed, you let them know today was that they can't sign a contract because it has to go out to bid.
It's over $10,000, so at least needs formal process and 3 quotes. Dave Arnold has given me the information on the company. I'm going to see if they might be under a state contract, that we can see if we can sign it under the state contract.
Okay. And is there a way of encumbering funds from FY22?
If that contract started in fiscal year 22, I've already asked the chair to tentatively schedule a meeting next week for any last departmental transfers, because I know there's going to be more than this, either on the Tuesday or the Wednesday evening, just for the one item of departmental transfers. So it could be taken up at that particular time.
Okay.
So just on that question, if we're in fiscal year 23 already, and we haven't even done the bid process, how could this contract possibly have already started in 22, which ended?
If they are under a state contract, it could have.
You can backdate it?
It's actually, they already signed it, because at the time when they tracked me down on vacation, they didn't, and then I was a little bit preoccupied. I didn't ask how much the total value was. So I only found out today when Bradley showed me what would be the reserve transfer request, that it was over $10,000.
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but department heads and boards have authorization up to $5,000. So if the ticket was above $5,000, they signed it, that's a violation, right?
As far as I know, boards and commissions have authorization to $9,999.
Fine, this means over $10,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Secondly, they're proposing using wages, unspent wages, to then transfer into an expense line item.
Yes.
Is what I heard. Okay.
I don't have the information in terms of how much from each line, but they had, I believe, 3 sources they were hoping to transfer in with, they had gotten the expense report, and they were hoping to transfer in what was remaining from 2 or 3 lines into software.
Okay. So we'll have to get down. We haven't set the meetings for August yet, so once we get down to that, but Ed did talk to me about having just a special meeting just for one item about other line item transfers, because it looks like we'll have more than just even these tonight and the assessors. So we'll get to that when we hit it on the agenda. Okay. Thanks, Rita.
Okay,
And just to say, this ties in a little bit, too, with some of the work that we've been talking about on the Cost Efficiencies Committee, because we had been talking about it through the building commissioner software, which is, I guess, it's a little bit different than the assessor software. It's not the same company, is it, Ed? I'm sorry. For the building commissioner software. We were looking at having that person come in and potentially talk about different modules that could be added to that, but this sounds like it may be a different...
It's totally different.
Different company altogether. Okay. But anyway, so some of this sort of dovetails to a little bit of the discussion we've had at ways to try and increase revenue and better capture our tax base through the Cost Efficiencies Committee. So interesting that they're going in that direction. Okay, more to talk about there. Next, John, how about anything?
None of the committees that I'm currently assigned to have met. The next one is PPB, which will meet on 7/21.
Okay. All right. Francine?
Okay, since our last meeting, only one of the committees I'm on met, and that was the bylaw committee. They met on June 22nd. We continue to review the questions for the draft manuscript for the online manuscript that this company, General Code, is doing for us to make easy access for residents to get information about town bylaws. And it's not just easy, it's very transparent. And so we're looking forward to completing this process and getting it out there for everyone to look at, to use. That would save then inquiries to the different town offices, because the information is going to be available 24/7 at people's fingertips on their computer. So we're looking forward to that. What's coming up for future meetings, the Board of Health is meeting on Thursday, July 7th. The bylaw committee is meeting again on July 20th, Wednesday. The zoning board of appeals is meeting on July 25th, which is a Monday, coming up in a couple of weeks. And the Norris School Committee will meet again on August 10th. And that's it for me.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, and from my end, just the Cost Efficiencies Committee is going to meet on the 13th, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, another Zoom meeting. And the Grants Committee met recently, and we're keeping our eye out for any grants that are related to traffic safety, sort of the roads to school safety kind of things. We've got 2 or 3 requests for people that would like to do some traffic calming and or some traffic crossing. And so we've talked to the police chief about that in particular, and Ed as well. So we're keeping our eyes open for a couple of grants that will be, hopefully the opportunities for them will be opening up soon, and we may be doing some application in that regard. The other one that I mentioned earlier is this Clean Water Trust Asset Management one that Ty and Bond actually reached out to us saying that they would be glad to help put together the application for that one, because it was pretty much an extension or very similar to the culvert asset management one that they had already done for us with MVP. So once Randall gets back, hopefully he can work with Dan Holmes at Ty and Bond and get it done. They've got a August 12th deadline on that one, I believe. So other than that, we're just waiting to sort of see some results of some of the other grants that we've put in. We haven't heard from the hazard mitigation plan update or some of these others that have been out there for a while now. So we're hoping in the next month or two, at the beginning of the new fiscal year, we should be getting some grant announcements on some of these other ones. And I think just a PS on the 2 things. On the cemetery sidewalk, Ed and I have discussed this. I think we talked about it at one meeting, that we'll go back to our contractor and take a look at the planting of the so-called grass along the sidewalk, because that has got to be redone. There's really not any grass there that's holding well, so that's an outstanding issue just to be finalized. And then, Ed, do you want to talk a little bit, just briefly, the park meeting with the engineer, the on-call engineering firm that came in to talk to you and Randall and Tom Gaughan and Mark Reed about the park project?
Yes, the the splash pad
Yeah.
or the splash deck and
Put that mic over, Ed.
pedestrian
Yeah.
walkway. We
Mic over.
did have a opportunity on a short notice before vacations started that Angie Duffy from GZA came out and met with Mark Reed and Paula Mack from the Park Commission, myself, and Tom Gavon from the Water Department and Randall Kemp from the Highway Department. Were also there since they are the most familiar with the services which are already there in Conant Park by the pavilion. Chris Fowles did join us also, so that was very productive. Anja had some good thoughts and ideas on the project, and so, and actually while I was on vacation, she followed up with a couple of questions and actually came back with some ideas. So I've got to send those along to the Park Commission and probably the Grant Committee also.
Great. Okay, good. Yeah, I think, so this is one of the on-call engineering firms that we selected, this GZA, a new firm for Southampton, I think, right? They're out of Springfield, West Springfield. And it's a bigger firm, obviously, but the engineer, the landscape Parks and Rec expertise type person who came, Anya Duffy, was very, just very knowledgeable. She's worked with a variety of park programs before, and especially this grant program as well, so she knows a lot about how that operates and has some ideas that she was going to put down on paper. So she heard all the concerns, all the worries, and all the hopes, and is going to try and put them all together and see what she gives us. But at least we've got to start on that, which is good. Renee?
We have a master plan for sidewalking in town. I'm just thinking I think it's part of the plan for the road that we just heard about from Route 10 to Whistling Meadow, and obviously the bridge has it. But do we have a plan as far as what would be good steps for sidewalks? I know the addition of the one on Palmer Meadow has been a wonderful community thing. Same for the, other than the planting, the sidewalk in front of the cemetery. But is there any other plans for like either Clark Street or Gun Road or anything?
Probably the next step, and Randall's had this one on his radar for a few years, especially now that we're able to do the one in front of the cemetery, is to improve and widen the one from High Street to the fire station.
Yeah, that would be a good one to do, yeah. So,
Yeah, that'd be good.
yeah, I'm not sure if there's any other, plan per se, but I know that discussions happened at times, yeah.
Other than East Street.
But other than East Street, once the road improvement work happens there, yeah, right. John?
Just with the sidewalk in front of the cemetery, what, if anything, is going to be done regarding the fence? So now some sections have been removed and stacked behind it, could very easily disappear in the evening.
Yeah.
And it's not really this body, it's the
No.
cemetery commission, but
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe this body wants to send an official request to that committee. I mean,
Yeah.
are there ARPA funds that can be used for it?
Well, I don't know, and I don't know. I think part of their issue, I'm assuming, because it's somewhat historical, is probably finding the person or persons to do the repair, right?
Correct. There's very few companies that do it, so they're trying to get some estimates, and then the intent is to go to the CPC. And to be honest with you, if you would like to go out there and try to lift one of those sections.
I know that it's cast iron.
And I will be honest, I'm the one that had it done, because with the Memorial Day parade and everything coming up, I was a little worried about it leaning out towards the sidewalk, so. And to be honest with you, I really wasn't concerned about the fence itself disappearing, but I was a little bit about any small parts or what have you that might disappear on it.
Yeah.
My point of view is it's a cemetery. It's supposed to be a place of peaceful remembrance, and it looks like World War II went through there. So, I mean, either we figure out how to fix the fence or take the fence altogether.
Yeah.
But I also understand we now have a brand new storage facility of the highway charter. You won't even fit one link fence in there.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big a building. Last time I looked at it, I'm not sure about that.
And I probably shouldn't step into this, but I will also remind, this committee that, okay, there's fence that go down the two sides of the cemetery also, and probably in maybe a worst case scenario, in my opinion, if they can't find somebody that can repair what we currently have, perhaps we remove some on the right-hand side that you don't see a whole heck of a lot from the outside and put that up front. Another thought.
It is, and I think this is all an excellent conversation for the commission, the cemetery commission to have.
Yeah.
And then come back with what our thought, instead of us brainstorming.
Sure, yeah. No, it wouldn't hurt. We can certainly reach out to them and just ask them for an update in terms of where their planning is on that. I know when they gave us their quarterly report, they talked about it, but I haven't heard anything since in terms of any real movement on finding an entity to do the repair. So, yeah, good point. Okay, let's keep moving on. I think that's it for reports for now. We have some appointments and resignations under that section, mostly appointments, I believe. I think they're all appointments. So let's just break them into groups here. We've got 4 for the Agricultural Commission. Would somebody like to just take those on?
Okay, I'll read them. Tom Bashista.
Just move your mic really close, Francine. You're not.
Tom Bashista, Agricultural Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2025. Robert Fletcher, term to expire June 30, 2025. Marla Hank, term to expire June 30, 2025. And Claudia Lucas, also whose term will expire June 30, 2025.
Yeah, and just to note, Marla is an Ag Commission alternate. Okay, she's a little different status there. So these are all for the Agricultural Commission. So could we have a motion to approve these appointments?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Roll call.
Groden, aye.
Piper, aye.
Fowles, aye.
Fishman, aye.
Lumber, aye.
Okay, thank you. Next group. Joy, you want to take the next group?
Sure. Virginia Ahart Bylaw Advisory Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2023. Christine Fowles, Bylaw Advisory Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2025. And Francine Tishman, Bylaw Advisory Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2024. I move to appoint them. I will make that motion.
That was a motion to appoint, okay.
Sorry, I will make a motion to appoint those 3.
Can I move to a point?
Yes.
Very good.
Second for discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
How big is the bylaw committee?
4.
It's supposed to be 5, and we have 4 members.
So the select board has 50%.
Yes, but not at the time of the
Yeah,
original appointment. The select board had 0.
No, I'm just pointing out that we have a precedence of having a majority of select board members on one individual committee, so that at a later time when we talk about PPB, we're not reinventing the wheel when we just appoint select board members to fill the roles.
Yeah. No, we have 4 members now out of the 5, yeah. Yep. At the time, I think I was appointed as an at-large or something at the time. Okay, so I think we have a motion and a second. Can we have a vote, please? Roll call. All those in favor?
Lumber.
Groden, aye.
Fishman, aye.
Fowles, aye.
Piper, aye.
Groden? Rini?
Groden, aye, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on. I'll do the next one. We have, let's see, what do we got here together? It doesn't make any sense, probably. Let's see, we'll do 2 together. How's that? John Lumber, Capital Improvement Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2024. And Nancy Ruscio, Council on Aging Board, term to expire June 30th, 2025. I make a motion to approve both of those appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Could I just question about whether we should discuss the liaison assignments before we appoint John to the Capital Committee? I mean, are we, I thought we're going to be, are we relooking at them, or
We
are
are
we
looking
just?
at them, but they're next on the agenda. They're not, we were going through the appointments first, and then we're going through the liaison assignments after that.
Okay, so this is not a liaison assignment then?
No.
No, this is,
It's a voting position, so it's not a liaison assignment.
it's a voting
what-
member of the capital committee.
Okay, I'm a voting member of the conservation, on the CPC too, and all the other committees, I'm a voting member. So I'm just not sure what the difference is.
Except for the Board of Assessors and the Council on Aging, you're only a liaison for those two. You shouldn't be voting on those boards.
Right, I'm a voting member of the building committee for COA, I'm a voting member for the public safety, and I'm a voting member for the community preservation committee.
Right.
So, and you're a voting member for personnel policies, which we appointed last meeting, and now this one. So I have no issue with it, but I'm just wondering if we're re-looking at the liaisons or if we're continuing with our existing liaison assignments, because isn't this the same?
I think they're broken into two different groups. You have the liaison group where we're just reporting back, and then there's the group where we're empowering the member to vote. I think they generally work happening at the same time on the assignments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. Basically what we've done, I think Ed has gone through the list, and those that were expiring, you've picked up, I think there's even more yet still to appoint, but the many of those that were expiring June 30th, 2022, we did a batch at the last select board meeting. We've got another batch now, and we're trying to keep up with all the appointments that still have to be done. So I think we were catching up with that without particularly paying attention to this as, anything conflicting with our committee assignments, I guess.
Okay, I'll support it if the decision is that he's going to stay on capital, because this is a liaison assignment, just like last time was the personnel policies and procedure. I'm just bringing it up. Whereas the bylaws advisory committee is independent of your liaison assignment from the select board. So I'm just raising the question as if we're going to be continuing with having John be the liaison to capital.
Those are not liaison positions, they are voting members. These people are appointed to those to vote on those committees.
Okay,
Liaisons
well,
do not
aren't
vote
we-
at the committee meetings.
Okay. Are we looking at voting membership in committees tonight?
Yes.
With,
Okay.
with this one that we just did, is with this one that's come up for the capital committee, that is a voting member of the capital committee, not a select board liaison.
Okay, but I'm looking at the list that we're about to look at, and it basically says, select board appointed officers with voting rights by bylaws or committee charge.
Right.
So if we're looking at it, I'm fine with it. Like I said, I'm just saying that if we're going to be changing anything, then we should address the liaison, the assignment, voting rights, and liaison prior to appointing him to capital. If it's not going to change, then it's fine. If it's going to change, then why are we appointing him then?
Because his term has expired, right?
Right, but I think Rainey wants to see.
But I didn't hear what you said.
My microphone's not.
Okay, so yes, the appointment for John had expired, so that's why we're taking it up tonight as one of several. There's others to come that we don't even have on the list tonight, that we haven't got the complete list of other ones that still need to be reappointed that want to stay on the committee. I have no objection if we want to ask Mr. Lumborough whether he is willing to stay on the capital committee now, or we table this and come back to it in a minute when we get back to the committee assignments.
No, I'd like to stay at the capital.
Okay. Does anybody else have a desire to be on the capital committee?
No.
Rini, do you?
Nope, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Then let's continue then where we are. So we have a motion on the floor, I believe, for John reappointed to the Capital Committee till June 30th, 2024, and Nancy Ruscio, COA Board, until June 30th, 2025. And I think I had a second on that, so we'll take a roll call vote. All those in...
Aye.
Yeah.
Fishman, aye.
Fowles, aye.
Piper, aye.
Roden, aye.
Okay. Let's take the next three for the Cultural Council. Anybody? Francine, go ahead.
Okay, Karen Adamski, Cultural Council, term to expire June 30, 2025. Lucy Dalton, Cultural Council, term also to expire June 30, 2025. and Jody Loud, Cultural Council, whose term will expire June 30th, 2025.
Okay. I take that as motion. Second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Lumber, aye.
Tishman, aye.
Fowles, aye.
Piper, aye.
Roden, aye.
Okay, enjoy the last two, please.
I move to appoint Robert Kozub, Historical Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2025, and Francine Tishman, Master Plan Implementation Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Okay. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Lumber, aye.
Tishman, aye.
Fowles, aye.
Piper, aye.
Roden, aye.
Okay, good. So that takes care of this batch of appointments for tonight. I know we have more, and just one of the things that, I'm not quite sure how this has been done in the past, but Ed and I have chatted briefly about this. I would like it to be somewhat systematic. I think we had agreed that we wanted to try and do staggered positions as much as we can, that we don't want everybody expiring all at the same time. So to the extent we can stagger appointment times, but also I would like it for, I think it would be appropriate for the town administrator to reach out to the chairs of the committees to find out if they want people reappointed, what their comments are about that. If they, we shouldn't just be assuming that everybody wants to be reappointed without talking to somebody. And I know Lucy and Judy kind of share a list of appointments. Lucy tends to focus, I think, a little bit more probably on the elected positions, and Judy's trying to keep up with some of the appointment positions, but it's a common list that they share, and I would assume, just seems to me that it would make sense that we reach out to the chairs of the committees going forward, just to be sure that we are appointing people that would like to be appointed. So that was a thought I had, and I'm willing to hear some discussion on that. But yes, we seem to have a couple of dead mics. I'm hoping people can hear me. Rini, go ahead, though.
I think that's a great idea. I was just noting that the Agricultural Commission assignments are all expiring at the same time. Was that accurate?
Well, they have, and honestly, they don't meet, if they meet once a year. It's not like it's a very active committee at the present time, so I'm not totally worried about it.
Okay.
But yes, that's what kind of spurred my attention on that one, too. And there may be a few other members on the committee, too, I'm not sure. So again, we haven't seen the full list of everybody. But what does anybody think? Does that make sense to have the town administrator reach out to the chairs and just verify that, person X looks like on our list, they're up for appointment, do they want to continue or don't they? And just get a response from the chair. Does that seem to make sense?
I like the idea of making it somewhat of a reoccurring annual process, whether that's in the month of April, that the form letter, email be sent to each chair. The following positions are coming up.
Okay.
Let the chairs reach out to them and say,
right,
your term's coming up. Do you want me to bring it forward for the?
Okay. Yeah.
Well, there's the other.
It creates that process.
Yeah.
But there's
Okay.
the other thing, where some boards or committees would like to make recommendations of replacements of individuals who may not want to continue to, or not be able to continue serving. So that's all the more reason to be in touch with them sooner rather than later.
But maybe, something like every, whatever, at the 6-month mark or something, December even. I mean, just to reach out and say, okay, or take a look at the list and see when the next expirations, group is coming up, and just sort of,
It also gives
base it around there.
It also gives us time that, depending on which seats are open, because there's always going to be seats open somewhere, right?
Right.
To be able to fit it into the annual meeting.
Correct, yeah.
The following posts are coming open on June 30th. Here's how to apply.
Right, yeah.
Residents.
Well, let's back it up from April, though. Maybe January, yeah? Let's try January. Maybe we would try to look at, getting, a status report in terms of where the appointments are, and then sending a note out to the chairs that are where it's relevant. So I think we will have a few more to come, but we're trying to catch up with a lot of them that did expire or are about to expire. Okay, there we are. So moving on to new business. We're going to jump in right now to the Select Board Liaison assignments and committee assignments, and you have the list in front of you. Thank you, everybody, for getting your notes into Ed in terms of what committees you're on and roughly what times of the week they meet and how often, et cetera. I'm not sure how we've actually proceeded with this in the past, but is there somebody that would like to change their committee in particular, for a different committee, have a change of scenery offhand from what you currently have? And I'll just maybe go through and just read the list of who's assigned to what as the liaison right now. So Board of Assessors is Rini, Conservation Commission is Joy, Finance Committee is John, Planning Board, Joy, all the ad hocs, tech, grant, cost efficiencies is me, Board of Health, Francine, Council on Aging, Rini, Norris School, Francine, Hampshire Regional, John, Greenway Committee, John, Master Plan Implementation, myself, ZBA, Francine, and Housing Authority, Joy. So some people have got, a pretty healthy schedule there. If
Just
you'd like to,
for the record,
that's what we have on here, yep.
I'm actually an elected member of the Housing Authority.
You are now, that's true. Yes, you got elected, that's correct. You are an elected member of the Housing Authority now. That is true, okay. So does anybody have anything that they would like to consider changing around? And then also just on the other ones we were talking about, so as voting members, Rini's voting on Community Preservation, the Council on Aging Building Feasibility Committee, and the Public Safety Building Committee. Joy is a voting member of the Open Space Committee, right? And now Housing Authority, obviously. And John is a voting member of Capital Committee and PQB. Correct? I've got everybody, I think? Okay. So I'm open for a discussion. Who would like to?
Well, I'll just say that
Yep.
I'm happy with, can you hear me?
Go ahead, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now I feel like I'm on 5 committees and 3 of them are meeting every 2 weeks, which does feel like a lot, and they're all late in the afternoon for the most part. But right now, 2 of them are the building committees, and I think it's nice to have the same person sort of back and forth for communication, and they're very active. And the Council on Aging, is related to the building. And so I'm happy to stay with what I have for now, just because it's, everybody's we're all in the middle of a lot. So I'm happy with just keeping what I have.
Okay, all right. John, thoughts? Anything? You're happy with PQB and Capital for now?
No, really.
In Hampshire?
I'm okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody wants any of those committees,
Yeah.
speak right up.
Okay,
But I'm okay doing it another year.
yeah.
John, can you just speak in your mic a little bit? I don't know if it's the room or.
My microphone's not working.
Yeah, apparently the mics
okay.
on at this end of the table are not working. I don't know what's going on, but Francine
Okay.
and John are not being heard by people that are texting me here.
Okay, yeah, I can't hear him very well either.
Yeah.
If anybody really wants to have any of the committees I have, then, speak up, but otherwise, I'm happy to continue.
Yeah, we can hear you. So yeah, no, it's these mics down here. Something, I don't know if it got disconnected or what's happened here, but we'll try again. So try Francine anyway, and we'll relay.
What I have, unless there's someone who would like one of the committees that I'm on, certainly will accede to someone else's wishes.
Okay. So,
Takers.
all right. Nobody's jumping up and down. How
I
about?
offered.
Yeah, I know. How about Joy? You've got quite a few on your list here now with Housing Authority too. So are you feeling a little overwhelmed there? Or
No, I'm fine. I'm fine staying. If anyone really wants to switch, I'm fine. The only one I can't switch is the Housing Authority because I'm elected.
Right. Okay.
But otherwise, I'm fine either staying or switching with anyone who really needs a break from one of the committees they're on or wants to try something different. But I'm fine.
Okay. All right. And I think just from my point of view, I mean, most of mine are these ad hoc ones that I've had a hand in kind of creating. So I'm fine with being on them. I think, John, depending on your druthers, maybe we could switch back and forth on Greenway if it gets going on that.
So I was going to mention that because when he came up last time around, I got Greenway, but you were going to continue on it for a period of time and then let me know when to take over.
Okay. They haven't, yeah, I haven't been to a meeting, actually. They haven't.
Yeah, when I looked, the last time they met was like March 21st.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, I mean, they should be, I mean, once we get going with these grants, they should be really kicking in gear pretty soon, so just to say. But, I mean, if there's I just wanted to offer that I could be your backup. I didn't want to take on the meeting, but I'll just say that if you can't make a meeting, I'll be your alternate. How's that? I wouldn't mind doing that. But other than that, okay, I think then we are pretty much set with what we have. the way it is. We'll go another year, basically in the same mode, okay? Everybody agreed? All right, so be it. I'm not hearing any major opposition, so I think that's where we'll go. Thank you, everybody, and I really appreciate all the time and effort you're making to attend the meetings and report back, and also share the Select Board's perspective on what we're doing on this end. It's really important to have this two-way dialogue and communication, and I think that's really helped things move along a lot better in town over the last year or so. So thanks very much for your diligence on that. Moving forward, let's go to the departmental transfers. We do have quite a few here. Ed, I think I'll let you take that on, but you're going to have to really move that mic right in front of your face here, I think, because I don't know what's going on with our sound tonight.
All right. To the fire department wages, which is anticipated to be $13,281.56 in deficit. $6,000 from fire expense, $7,281 from EMT wages. Fire truck maintenance, which is expected to be $10,751.15 in deficit. That same amount from EMT wages. Ambulance maintenance, which is $5,949.82 in deficit, $4,065.99 from EMT wages, and $1,883.83 from EMT standby. Ambulance billing, which is $1,519.83 in deficit, that entire amount from EMT standby. Fire EMS building expenses, which are $1,255.09 in deficit, that entire amount from EMT standby. Ambulance EMS expenses, which are expected to be $9,055.77 in deficit, $1,203.75 from EMT standby, $17.24 from EMT license and certification, and $7,834.78 from group health insurance. Town hall building expenses, which are expected to be $3,142.89 in deficit, $1,476 from town hall custodial wages, $1,666.89 from group health insurance. Gas and electric town hall, $2,368.85 in deficit. That entire amount from group health insurance. Library utilities expected to be $2,662.54 in deficit. That entire amount from group health insurance. Library maintenance is anticipated to be $593.70 in deficit. That entire amount from group health insurance. Highway building expenses expected to be $2,156.71 in deficit. That entire amount from general highway expenses. Police overtime wages anticipated to be $3,500 in deficit due to the retro, and that entire amount from police wages. Dispatch wages anticipated to be $6,000 in deficit, $4,000 from police wages, and $2,000 from police educational expense. And then police building expense, $1,800 in deficit, that $1,800 from police expense. And the total of both of those columns would be $64,037.91.
Okay. We have some discussion, anybody?
Now, I haven't had a chance to compare this to the fiscal year 23 budget to see if those expenses were realigned, if these are kind of the usual overruns and, you know, leading to deficits in some budget lines and excesses in others. So I would be interested in some, I don't know, I know no one has time to do that kind of analysis, so if I get a chance to take a look, I will. But, so that we do a better job in terms of budget planning, is what I'm looking for.
One of the things that may help you out, and I will have to pull it out maybe in another couple weeks, but for the Cost Efficiencies Committee, Bradley had run the approved budgets for me for the last 5 years, and also a list of the transfers for every fiscal year. And that was not the actual expenditure report, but at least trying to show what we had budgeted and what our, where our transfers tended to be for each of those years. So we can pull something together and maybe distribute to all, because that, we were trying to look at that and see too, maybe as a tool going forward, it might help us with some budgeting going forward, but we want to also take a look at the real expenses, not just the budgeted report.
Right.
But we've taken a little toe in that water through the Cost Efficiencies Committee as well. But yeah, so this is $64,000. This is the 6th departmental transfer, and Ed, you're assuming one more then?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so any further discussion?
I have some questions,
Yep.
and probably more concerns, and probably better my microphone's not working. But this kind of, the first section up here on the fire department aligns with an email that we received from the fire chief on June 15th that he sent to the entire select board, as well as the finance committee and the town administrator and the town accountant. So I'll note that, so if anybody wants to look at it for public record. June 15th at 11:09 it came in. And he does a very good job explaining all these line items and where they came from and that. And he supplies a supporting document, which I appreciate, spelling it all out. But it comes down, what jumps out at me is that the department overspent by his math $7,200, which I'm assuming is why we're taking $7,800 from health insurance, and it's all going into the fire department, which is fine. I mean, it's not fine, but okay, I get it. So question number one is, does this transfer, which includes $7,800 from another department or section of the budget, settle or resolve the issue the fire chief raised on June 15th? I think it does.
Well, I'm going to go further back than that. I would say it also resolves the issue when he was asking for a $4,000 transfer for the annual town meeting, and then wanted to change it to $10,000. And between the finance committee and the select board, shall we say, the conversation started there of why don't we wait and not do it at the annual town meeting, but try to do it from departmental transfers. But unless something happened last week that was unforeseen, this should take care of it.
Okay, so that's good. But then, and so that aside, I guess because this body really only has the power of the purse, right? I mean, once we approve the budget and it goes out there, it's out there. It concerns me that at least one department, and I don't know if there's others, because it doesn't appear to be so far, because this is the first time that a transfer has come through that hasn't just wiped itself out within the department. I guess I would go to the town accountant and ask what safeguards are missing that we should be considering putting in place to prevent deficit spending throughout the year, so that, great, we had an extra $8,000 sitting in health insurance to cover this. But in reality, it's going into our free cash certification, because we can't have a deficit when we close our books. So I'm wondering where the misstep was, if it can be identified, and how can we move to resolve that? And I'm not looking for an answer tonight. It's more of a question as we move forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, good point. So, I mean, I think other than what we have tended to do is to sort of look at it on a quarterly basis and just say, well, it looks like, this is, 25% of the year, and therefore this is where people are spending. That's kind of where we've kind of eyeballed things, but we haven't gone into any real analysis on anything that I'm aware of.
Yeah, and again, it's been my first cycle going through the entire budget process sitting on this side, and I can say there are some departments that are extremely strong, and if you question any invoice, they can tell you right down to the penny what it was for, when it was spent, and what the historical trend is. But we need to also give our other department heads who that may not be their strong suit. And honestly, when you look to hire a department head, generally, you're not looking for somebody that's good at mathematics.
Correct.
Right? You know, to do the job that they're doing, whether it's the highway department or the fire police, whatever the case may be, whoever it is. How do we get there? And how do we eliminate this from happening again? Which then follows me up to, and I was going to do this under other business, so if it's more appropriate, I bring it up there. This Friday coming up is the first Friday where the financial team will be working, correct?
Or did they work
Last Friday.
last Friday, I think?
Oh, perfect. So already into it. So,
I think Bradley was in on Friday,
Yeah.
last Friday, I'm sure.
so I'll hold the rest of it until the
Okay, yeah, okay, all right. Okay, so I think we have the list of departmental transfers. Do I need a motion to approve those transfers?
So moved.
All right, could I have a second on the?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, roll call?
Lumber.
Roden, aye.
Tishman, aye.
Piper, aye.
Rini?
Roden, aye.
Okay, Fowles, aye. Okay, thank you.
Well, I just wanted to know if there's any follow-up to, I think John just made a really good point about what safeguards are in place. And I'm not sure I heard whether there was an action item for that. Other than, is he going to?
Ask the town accountant with it, and whether he works and has a conversation with our town administrator on what there is, and I'm sure there's a way to fix it. The question is, can we afford the process of whatever that case may be? But it's kind of like, I'm leaving it as an open-ended question that I'll raise again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the idea of trying to define some safeguards so that we're watching this maybe more closely during the year so that we can maybe try to avoid some of these, or at least let the department heads realize that they are really running risk. And I think, through the departmental head meetings, I'm assuming some of that comes up in your discussions too, Ed, that you're letting them know that, you may need to be careful in terms of your spending, so.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room. I'm sorry, but in my little over 4 years here, I'm going to say our financial position pushes most of this. Because department heads come forward, give you an honest take on what they need for their budgets, and guess what? We don't have the money. So we tell them, oh, we're going to level fund that, we're going to level fund this. So they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So please keep that in the back of your minds also.
Okay, point.
Well, and I do, I respect that fact, but the budget is the budget at the end of the day.
Right.
And this happens to be the first transfer that came before us, but there was a department prior to this that came in that tried to fund, that allowed expenses to go forward without an appropriate funding source, and then tried to, close the deal at the end of the day by taking funds from another source. We held the ground and said, you have to go back and first exhaust it within your budget, for which they did. So it didn't raise to this level.
Yeah.
No, so I didn't bring it up then.
Yeah, that's fine.
It could be $10, but it's still over.
Yeah.
Right. And here,
Well, the easiest piece of that is just say, okay, tell the accountant it can't go over. Then no matter what, that ambulance that wasn't expected to break its front end or whatever, if it goes down and goes over, you don't repair it, you take it out of service.
or we have been funding, whether adequately or not, the reserve fund, which is a source of funds that we can go to if the matter is brought to finance committee and select board.
Yeah.
So then it's fresh in our mind when we do the budget process.
Right.
That's a possibility.
Right.
Yeah, that's a possibility too.
Then, it's one of the areas I'd like to see brought up in the future. I mean, it went from $2,000 for 22 to $5,000 for 23, which is a step in the right direction. $2,000 doesn't get a lot when something unanticipated happens.
Sure.
I mean, in reality, that reserve account should be probably somewhere around $35,000 or $40,000.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Francine, question?
No, my only comment was about the fact that I'm okay in terms of department head management of their budgets if they're moving the money around within their own budget as opposed to taking it at the end of the year from another department's budget. That's sort of what John was saying. So I think monitoring it closely during the course of the year, we either have some appreciation, understand why, and perhaps do something about it at the time. Or go back to the department head and ask them to look a little bit closer. Or what can you trade off? He's right, a budget is a budget, and that we have to live within our means. Like it or not. And I know that in many instances it's not adequate, but that's what we have.
Yeah.
And heck, I'm guilty of it because I forgot that there was transfers for the trash pickup by the highway department. So that was $2,800 of the town hall expense. So I'm guilty for that one.
Okay. All right, Rini.
Well, I don't think this board or you as a CFO, Ed, none of us should be in favor of any deficit spending. That's just the way we have to, do our work. And I do agree that we should have a higher reserve fund, but department heads and committee chairs are just going to have to look at things at quarters and, be ahead of it as much as possible. And I think the other thing that we'll put into place, which will help a lot, especially since we've been doing so many contracts in the last year, is if we stay on top of the fact that contracts have to be addressed 6 months before they're due instead of doing all this retroactive pay, which I think wages are really tough. It's hard to say that someone's not going to get paid in the month of June.
And I'm just going to throw out one last example to please keep in the back of your minds. Highway Department was able to cover the snow and ice deficit this year out of their own. In my opinion, push comes to shove, that may be unfair because we really don't go up on the snow and ice deficit because we know that we can deficit spend. So is that really the department head's responsibility? Or is that even one that we should maybe take a look at earlier in the process rather than saying, okay, you got to cover this out of your own highway department budget if it's deficit spent, or is it one that we earmark early and say, well, in reality, we put some constraints on that, so that's one of the ones early on we'll look and see if we can find any money in a department outside your own we can transfer into.
Yeah.
I think this is the first year that we.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I think this is the first year that they have covered it themselves. I think that they should cover it themselves if they have the funds, and if not, then we look to where we can fund it.
Well, and I was going to say that is under the 80-20 rule, that's the 20, right? Because that's the one account that the department head asks for an increase every year, and they can show the trend, and we don't do it because statutorily, it's the one area we can get away with. But we also know, or we should know, that any deficit or shortfall there is just going to hit the free cash, which is then going to reduce the amount we put into the OPEB and the capital projects and all that. Because I mean,
it's either that or the other way, if you can't cover it with free cash, is it goes on next year's tax rate. So it automatically reduces by whatever it is what you can spend out of the taxation for the following fiscal year.
Okay, I think we've exhausted this topic for now. We'll come back to it. We know we've got to do some monitoring, and I think generally agree that we don't want to be in a deficit spending position for any of our departments. So we'll be maybe having a closer eye on some of this during the year, and in different intervals, really having a special dive into reports just to see if we notice anything happening sooner rather than later, so we don't have to have all of these transfers, perhaps. Let's move on to the FY22 expense and revenue reports. We have, my understanding, the expense reports through June 30th and revenues through March 31. Is that correct, from what I understand? I think.
No, that would not be correct.
No?
Your expenses would not go all the way. Well, they might say June 30th, but the date on them would have been
Another week earlier, probably?
28th or whatever, but I mean, for another week and a half, you can still have
Yeah, you've got more invoices coming in.
And then if there's something that hasn't been billed,
Yeah.
you come up under encumbrance.
Okay. All right.
On the expenses that we do have here, is it safe to say that the budget revisions include up to but exclude the current transfer we just did? So the first 5 transfers that we approved, since this was number 6 tonight,
No, it wouldn't.
5 aren't in here?
1 through 3, 4 and 5 have not been approved by the Finance Committee yet.
Okay.
Or 6, which is
Okay.
approved by Select Board tonight. They'll have to go to-
So departmental transfers,
First 3 are.
departmental transfers 1 through 3 are reflected in the budget, 4 to 6 are not
So
yet.
some of the overages that we're going to see, we've already addressed, we're just waiting for the paperwork to go.
Waiting for it to catch up.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And there were a few, and maybe this will come out with part of what you were talking about with some of the expenses, but there was one on, for example, the assessors' expenses, they've only spent 19% of their budget, for example, on the,
That could be part of the transfer.
that's what I'm thinking, of the transfers that they're alluding to, right?
Yeah.
Because there's,
One item that's not on the transfers is, it seems to be figuring out how to void an issued check,
the
that regional lockup.
the lockup thing.
assessment.
And Bradley's been working on that to actually find and actually the account that it was put into for revenue, so.
Gotcha. When it came back.
When it came back, I read it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it was one that still stands out there pretty much, yeah. And then I think a couple of other things that don't look like they've spent a lot on it, maybe further expenses coming in just related to town clerk expenses and election registration wages, only in the 27% spent so far. So there could be more invoices coming in on that. This is under the first page,
Yeah.
or I think it's the first page.
Yeah, it is.
So just to wonder if there's more things coming in there. And then under, just from the tech committee point of view, on the technology equipment, Ed, we had 11,500 budgeted, and we've got about 46% left. So what else might come out of that one? Is that that's not our VoIP phones, because that's ARPA, right?
Correct. There are, and I'll mess this up, there are 2 printers,
Okay,
3 desktop replacements, I think it is.
Okay.
2 or 3, next.
great, okay.
The Microsoft 365 to go along with them, the monitors to go along with them.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
No, fine, I just wanted to be sure we were going to chomp down on some of that then. Okay, good, yep. And then tying back into John on the cemetery commission expenses, this is one too, where they don't have a very big budget, but they've, out of a $1,500 budget, they've only spent a couple $100. So certainly what they have left isn't enough to do whatever they need to do to repair that fence, but even so, they haven't had a whole lot of expenses in their,
Yeah, which is the opposite of last year when they overexpended.
right. And then following down with the park commission, they've only spent 6 or 7% of their budget. Again, they only have a $2,000 budget, but
So we mentioned water bills.
well, a lot of people were asking, why couldn't the water fountain be lit at least or on at least for 4th of July? And it's like, well, people who say we don't have the money for it, but, so maybe we do or maybe we don't. But I don't know, they're being very judicious in terms of how they spend their $2,000 budget.
Well,
But
could be that, or just because we went into drought so early in the year. They also didn't hook up the irrigation system at Liberty Field this year.
right. No, I think people were just looking for at least a day on 4th of July to have the fountain going, that was all. That was the comment I was hearing. But anyway, so that's, anybody have any other questions on the expense report? Those are the things that,
I do
go ahead.
on page 4.
Uh-huh.
So I see there's 2 line items under miscellaneous expenses, prior year expenses and prior year encumbered expenses. I'm assuming, so tell me if I'm wrong, prior year expenses of 2,129.19 were the ones that we just recently approved at the town meeting, I think.
Thanks.
Which is fine if that's what they are.
What's that?
Prior year expenses under miscellaneous.
Under miscellaneous.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up from the bottom.
Yeah.
$2,129.19. It's a budget revision. I'm thinking those are the
think they were-
invoices we approved at town meeting.
Should be.
Okay. So my question is the next line below that. If we encumbered $28,882.38 because we have fiscal invoices in hand, why did we pay $33,882.38 out? And the bigger question is, it's an even $5,000 over expenditure, which is an odd number in accounting to have. Go ahead.
And I have to now go back and find where last year's encumbrance letters are That happens to be the fiscal year 20, end of the fiscal year 20 audit. I swear I encumbered everything for that. Now, whether I thought I did and didn't, I don't know. Or did somebody else put in something that was not encumbered and got paid out the encumbrance? I have to work with Bradley and go back. But I can tell you exactly what that is because it showed up in the audit cost for this year.
Yep.
And I looked at that and said, no. And I goes, that's encumbered from last year.
Previous year.
So he moved it, and then I went, go, why did
And that was over, so maybe the entry doesn't belong to that. But there's a perfect example of, we encumber X number of items.
Right.
Here's the dollar amount.
Right.
When it doesn't match, it should be a huge red flag to the town accountant
Right, yeah.
and not get this far. That's all, as an example.
Good point.
Yep, okay. All right, anything else on the expense report as such? If not, would you like to look at the revenue report as we have it through, this is through March, from what I understand?
Yes.
End of March.
So this essentially is unchanged from the last report.
We had one last time, no, we had one through mid-March last time, so it's another couple weeks worth has been posted, I think.
This is to the end of March.
2 weeks has been posted. But- So what is our realistic timeframe of getting with the workload that everybody has and things going around in the treasurer's office and accountant office and staffing issues? What's our realistic timeframe for getting things closer together here? What's our goal? What are we hoping
Right
for?
now, my goal is to have everything ready for July 25th for the fiscal year 21 audit.
Okay.
That is my goal.
Okay.
This is secondary to me.
Could you just repeat that, please?
Yes, my goal right now is to have everything ready that Melanson has asked for the fiscal year 21 audit for July 25th when they come in for their field work.
Thank you.
So this would take us a back seat to that? Yeah, right.
So, well,
From your point of
But as soon as they've got all that stuff done, this takes a front seat. I
so
mean,
I'd like to offer something here. So again, going back to, and I do not believe any of this is the town administrator's responsibility other than to be the one voicing our instructions going out. But the Department of Revenue, DLS, there's a very clear spelled out process that happens every year on how you close the books. It starts in this particular case on revenue in the treasurer's office, where the treasurer has to file the treasurer's year-end cash report. They fill out the form, it's 2 pages long, it lists all the bank accounts, interest, and investments, and all that. I mean, on its face, it looks very simple. They fill out the form, sign off to it, it then has to go to the accountant, and the accountant has to say, yes, my books all match these numbers, and the drop dead date to have it in is September 30th. It has to be in by. So that's 90 days after our year end.
Right.
Understanding what the town administrator is saying about July 25th being the first priority, I would propose that we officially request from our treasurer/collector that year-end treasurer's report be filed with this board by the second meeting in August. And so that means that they're going to do their work, get that done, then it gets up to the town accountant does his. If they can't meet the deadline, then communicate down as to why, but they should be working towards that September 30th deadline anyways. Right. And then once we have that, okay, everything's cleaned up and now rolling forward, the DLS recommends, they don't demand,
Right.
recommends that they do that exercise monthly. So now you're only
You get caught
30
up.
days at a chunk.
Right,
And then
yeah.
that would force our revenue
Yeah.
to at the very least only be 30 days in arrears.
Right. And I think that is the goal, I think, in long run. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think if we,
Especially with, the Fridays.
I agree, but I think these folks are gonna have 1,000,001 things on their plates already. So if we as a group don't say, yes, you gotta do the 21 audit and get that done, but we're told July 25th is that deadline. So if I go out to the second meeting in August, that's gonna be sometime after the 14th, depending on what our schedule is. It's just, we're saying this is the next priority. from us, and the revenues have to get up. And then after that, they just stay on course.
Hopefully, yeah. Once we get fully staffed and get going, yes. Hopefully that should be the case. Okay. All right.
So I don't know if just verbally communicating that, or if we should send something stronger as a formal vote communication. Because again, I am mindful that I am directing instructions of another elected official,
Right.
which is different than an appointee.
Correct.
So I'm open to what the committee wants to do on that.
Yeah. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Ed, how would you like to handle it? The way you usually deal with your finance team? I mean,
I'll give it to both of them verbally and in writing.
Okay.
Then I become the bad person, not you.
And again, to be clear, if they can't meet the deadline,
I mean, just to-
communicate in advance.
Yeah, just let us
Not
know.
the day of the deadline, or we didn't make it, that's all.
Yeah, okay. All right, good, thank you. Any other questions on revenue report, comments for that tonight? If not? All right, I don't see any other questions. I did notice that I guess that was elsewhere, under the expense report, we did have the ARPA premium pay as a separate account, which I think is great to have that out separately. So thanks for doing that, so we can keep track of it. Okay, if nothing else on revenue reports, let us keep on moving then. The next agenda item, I believe, is to talk about our quarterly report calendar, Housing Authority, the Ad Hoc Housing Trust Committee charge. And Joy, this was your issue, if you'd like to tackle that one for a minute.
Sure. I guess I'm not even sure if there needs to be a charge, because I have two questions that need to be answered first. When do we think the town will have the special town meeting? I know that's like predicting the future.
I don't know.
Let's get our tarot cards out.
Is it 21 black or 6 red?
Yeah.
Let's back up a minute. I mean, first of all, I think we haven't always had a fall town meetings, a special town meeting. Sometimes we have, but sometimes it's gone till, January or February, and then during COVID times, we had a couple special ones.
Right, we have to vote the ambulance debt payment. When's that?
Well, that doesn't go out till April.
Yeah, it's a later one.
So we might not even...
Unless there's a real super urgent one, we may not have to have one.
Okay, so that's good to
October,
know.
November, but...
May not have one, okay.
Am I right on that? Unless there's something that came up. I mean, last time we had to have one because of our grant match, et cetera, with one of our grant programs in CPC and all that kind of stuff. So we may not need to, but I mean, so there's not a deadline in place right now, let's put it that way.
Okay, only if there
So we're a bit
absolutely needs
open-ended.
to be open-ended.
Right.
Okay.
So your question is relating to the housing trust that needs to get
Yes.
created, and
Their timeline is, so we only have, we're working with MHP for 6 months, and we've already been working with them for a few months. So we'll only have them for, maybe another 3 or 4 months to work on this issue. So they want to just make sure that we're on schedule and we have kind of a finalized product to have on, either a special town meeting or an annual town meeting warrant.
Right.
So that's why they're asking about the timeline. They're limited with their time with us. They want to make sure when they're done with us that we are all set to move forward.
Gotcha.
So that's the timeline issue. With that being said, I think we were discussing, whether having a full-on ad hoc housing trust committee to create the bylaw, to move it forward after the fact, or during parallel to the work with MHP, and then after the fact, once they're done working with the town. But as we've had in side discussions between you and I, Chris, is if it would be more appropriate to have a working group that is working with the bylaw advisory committee to create, the working group to create that bylaw, and then work with the bylaw advisory committee to see, what the revisions would be, how it would fit in with the rest of the town bylaws.
Yeah, let me turn it over to Francine. I mean, I think there's options here. Yeah.
No, I think that makes sense, because the regulations and so forth, and I know you're working with having some outside support. So that information, this would be all new to us. This is not like a general bylaw. This is very specific, and it should come from, the reservoir of expertise, which I think is within the group that you're working with. So I think working with us to kind of, make sure that it conforms and it's consistent in language and those kinds of things. But the particulars really have to initiate and originate with the
You guys.
this Housing Trust Bylaw Committee.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to make sure that, once MHP is gone, we have a group working on this that's within the town, whether it's, a subgroup working with the bylaw committee or a separate group working on it separately, because MHP is not going to be with us forever, and we don't know when the town meeting is going to be now that, so we need to make sure that there's a group staying on top of it.
Right. So the idea here is to form the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust itself, and this needs a bylaw to be able to do that.
Yes, it needs a bylaw. It's so that we can take funds from CPA or donations and use those without having to go to town meeting to use funds.
Understanding the process here, developing it with 30 days is, certainly within your capability, but we have this process that has to then go to our attorneys. All
Yes.
this takes more time than I think we ever imagined when we started this process. So if you build that time in, then you should hope that the special town meeting is later than October 20th.
Yeah, we were on a fast track timeline for this, but now knowing that it's really open-ended, these dates are not, these are not permanent dates. We were just, if it was going to be a fall town meeting, what's the quickest dates that we need to get things done?
Right. Now, how long do you have MHP working with you, though? It's on an as-needed basis, right? They're on a certain number of hours left to work with you, or?
I think it's just a timeline basis. I think they just said 6 months, and we meet with them pretty much, every other week, monthly, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
Probably we'll meet more with them to try to, with the subgroup, in conjunction, hopefully, with the bylaw advisory committee, create this bylaw, and then come back to the, and then work with the bylaw advisory committee.
Absolutely, we'll be very happy to work with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whatever seems to work best. Right now you've got, 3 people on your on your housing authority, 4 people.
Well, there's 4 people on Housing Authority, and then there's 3 members from the Housing Authority that are working with MHP.
Okay.
We started posting our meetings because now that I'm elected on there, it's we're holding them publicly. So
So you're working on sort of a draft bylaw originally then?
we have already reviewed bylaws from other communities, and so it's really just kind of piecing together what we like to present to the town.
Yeah, I would say, my thought would be to, keep on that track, and then when you're ready and need some other, input or whatever, then to get back in touch with Francine and join in on a meeting or have the working, one of you or the working group could join in on a bylaw meeting and then, combine forces at that point in time. But I don't see the need to create a separate committee with a separate charge myself. I think that's a bit overkill for
hopefully
what we
something that's
need.
not going to last more than a year.
We're putting
because
more structure in than may need to be at this point in time.
Right. I think if you've got some samples of relevant bylaws from other towns to have created this trust, then that's the best thing you can do, and then we'll figure out which ones seem to make the most sense to us and in Southampton's situation. And then whether that goes on to KP Law for review first, or we do another public information session like we've done with some of the others, so you've got the public involved and, invite them to a meeting to comment on it, make any, final comments. Then it goes to KP to finalize, and then it's ready for a town meeting warrant kind of thing. So I think it can all work together and dovetail it without creating, duplicative efforts.
Yes.
It seems like. So I think if you guys kind of proceed, yeah?
Yeah, just keep going.
Okay, just keep going as is, if
Yeah.
anything. I mean, I just made this just in case. We worked on that just, just in case you guys wanted something in writing. But I think that, without having a special town meeting, foresaw, in the future, a date set, then I think that we can keep going and then work alongside the Bylaw Advisory Committee.
Okay, no, I think that's fine. And this whole thing arose from the public meeting you had, the public information meeting that you all had.
Yeah, that was a first step to try to really inform everyone. I think it's now posted, if anyone missed it, Finance Committee or CPC, anyone who wasn't able to make it, it is now posted on Easthampton Media's YouTube, so please check it out.
Okay, good. Well, that will allow us to take a step forward, hopefully, in creating a housing trust in town, which could be very useful for us. So, all right, well, let's kind of work in parallel and not,
That's all, I'll keep you updated.
complicate things too much. All right, good. Rini, any comments on that? You okay with that?
No, I just really appreciate all your work, Joy, and the Housing Committee. I listened in on that, and I thought it was really, really helpful discussion. I think that what I came away is, a lot of the money for housing, will come from CPC. So I would just encourage, a lot of thought and discussion around the question that came up at the meeting about whether or not it should be open to out-of-town residents, since the CPC is a surcharge on people's taxes. So that was the only thing my only comment. I really appreciate all the work you're doing, though.
Absolutely, and that's something that as a group with MHP we've been discussing, keeping it within town residents, and we really appreciated your input and your questions at the meeting that we had.
Thanks.
Great, okay. All right, let's move on then to the quarterly report calendar. You have this in front of you in terms of where we have it, where we left off. I think we pretty much left May pretty open, and we didn't have any meetings in June like we were talking about with Holyoke Gas and Electric, Eversource, Charter, and Easthampton Media, although we have heard from Easthampton Media, obviously, due to the PEG programming. We've had Jeff, the new, yes, Jeff Mastriani has come in and talked to us twice, at least on that. And just to know, in case people haven't seen the announcement on that, they had Easthampton Media did have their annual meeting, and they've now changed both their logo and their name to E-Media. So that is, I think, a step forward, trying to be both inclusive of Southampton and Easthampton in terms of the towns that they're serving. They've announced that they've obviously made major equipment investments, and they're doing more on live streaming now, recognizing that a lot of people are cutting the cord with cable, and you can do some streaming on a variety of other platforms. And the big thing, which I think I see happening on the TV tonight, is that they've got into closed captioning. So you have all those different options now. So E-Media is now what it is called. So I don't know that we might need to have them in, and now with the thought would be, do we want to pick up, just to catch up these last couple, HGE, Eversource, Charter, do we want them to come in at some point as we start a new calendar and put them at the beginning of our thoughts?
I would support that, just because we didn't hear from them all last year.
Right.
And I know there is particular concern in town about internet access, about the speed and so forth. So I think people would want to hear what Charter has to say.
Okay. All right. So we had them on there as a kind of a catch-all at the end, and I think, we might be able to start the year with them and do it that way. But aside from that, taking a look at the calendar, we had the month of August kind of empty here, but that might be a time to try and put those folks in there in, say, the last meeting or something like that in August. And then begin again in September with our real calendar. What did people think in general about the calendar and the number of presentations? Did you find it helpful? Is this too much? Is it?
I think it can be abbreviated a little bit. I mean, I'm just thinking zoning doesn't meet that often. They're on the calendar twice.
Rini, sorry. I got John speaking, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can't hear him, sorry.
Go ahead. I can't hear John or Francine, sorry.
So I think there was a lot of information that came in, and it was great. One of the downfalls, though, is without doing some other adjustment to our schedules, it creates for a lot of very long,
Yeah.
5-hour, 6-hour sessions.
Right.
That being said, I don't think, unless some big surprise happens, that we're going to have any collective bargaining agreements to be negotiating. So that won't be in play, but I just wonder if somehow there could be preference given where it's, the first meeting of the month is when we have these quarterly reports, the second meeting we don't, and maybe the second meeting is when all the warrants come in, for example, even though that doesn't take up a lot of time.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
something like,
Okay.
that's all.
No, that's a valid thought. So, Rini, I don't know if you heard that, but John was suggesting that a lot of good information coming in, but made for long meetings, especially when we had executive sessions and collective bargaining issues, which we may not have this year, hopefully, but maybe having quarterly reports the first meeting of the month and not every meeting of the month, having it one of the 2 meetings of the month. So go ahead,
Yeah.
Rini.
Well, I was just noticing there's a couple of them that are down there that, like zoning is down there for 2 presentations. I don't even know that they meet that often.
Right.
So I agree. I think the meetings are long and we had a lot of executive sessions, a lot of contracting, and it's good information, but I think we should try to pare it down where we can.
Okay, all right. Well, I tell you what, without, belaboring it, I think, do we all agree that we basically want to hear from these committees at least once during the year, or these entities, whoever they may be, committees or otherwise, but the ones that meet, the more frequently met meeting groups, whatever, we want to hear from maybe a little bit more often. We might squeeze them in a second time, but the groups that are meeting maybe once a year, we don't try to plug them in twice a year. So if you would allow, I would be glad to try and tinker with this chart and bring it back for our next meeting with an idea. I'll see if I can streamline it a little bit. And
The only thing I would add,
Yeah.
and maybe it's looking at how the calendar falls when there's a month when we have 3 meetings.
yeah,
That designating that third week and getting it in the books 6 months ahead of time with our state rep and our senator. And having, their calendars they're fuller than ours.
yep,
But if we can give them a 6-month leeway to say, we'd like you each to come in for a 30-minute window here, and
yep.
where you fit that in the year, I don't know.
Okay, no, very, very valid point. Okay. Okay. All right, well,
just mentioned what he said.
Let's say that I'll try and tackle a redesign of this chart, keeping the same groupings. I think for the most part, there may be 1 or 2 that were a little strange, but I think most of the groupings kind of went together fairly well. And we'll see what we can rearrange here. And I think the basic format last time, giving folks a little bit of an outline of what we were expecting, seemed to help keep the discussion somewhat focused, so I think that won't change, but we'll just work up a new schedule. So I'll get something ready for the next meeting that we can talk about, okay? Great. I think it's useful to have people come in and talk to us directly, even though we are all liaisons here and there and go to various committee meetings. I think it really does help to really hear directly from the committee chairs themselves or others who represent them to tell us what's really going on and some of their concerns. So I think yep, go ahead, Francie.
It looks like Parks is missing.
Parks? Did we lose Parks? Could be.
I think Parks is with community preservation, conservation, and open space.
They might have been on 1 meeting and not 2. I don't know. They should have been.
They're up there on the top.
Years enough.
Yeah.
October meeting 1.
Yeah, okay. Yep, we'll check that out. All right, we may have missed one somewhere there.
I see. No, they're there.
Okay.
They're in the shaded area.
Okay.
They're there.
I was thinking hopefully I didn't miss them, but anyway.
Oh, they're there.
Yep, all right, good. So we'll come back to that. All right, very good. Okay, next, let's see, where are we? Okay, Assistant Town Accountant recruitment, a little discussion about what's going on there. Ed, I know you had taken a couple of steps since we last met, so.
Yes, still waiting for the Finance Committee to meet and sign up on the PRF on that particular one. In the interim, Francine did provide me with the information on the individual that was a close second choice last time around. So I have taken that, and I did call and leave that individual a message to see if they might be interested, still interested in that position, that it is back open again.
Okay, so you've left a message with that person, but no response on that yet?
No.
Yeah, okay. So we don't know whether that person is employed and/or interested or available,
Yeah,
but,
when did you call her?
I just called today when I got back from vacation.
yeah, okay,
If she's working,
yeah, so we'll
may
see.
not be there.
Yeah, but we'll see.
Okay.
So, okay, so that's one option. So what other recruitment options do we want to try this time to do this? I mean, I think we can be looking at things parallel. I mean, assuming she would get back to us, that would be great, but we need to not totally wait on that and put a plan in place for how we're going to try and recruit. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't disagree that a plan should be in place, but I don't think that's true with this board. Right? Because this is a department head hiring.
True, yeah, but I just don't want it to lag on for,
That I,
I mean, and the plan I meant by, I think we talked last time that we weren't that excited about going back with Indeed, so
Right.
if not Indeed, what else? I mean, is there, some other better avenue?
There's a couple other ones out there. There's a recruiter and a few others, and I'll just look into
Yeah, okay,
basically what the background
okay,
is on any of them.
all right, okay. Well, anything else? So I think this was our second place candidate, was it, right? Yeah, okay. Well, let's hope that she maybe has gotten the message and would be willing to talk to us again. Who knows? That would be an easy fill if that were nice to do, but we can't assume that that's a possibility, so. All right.
Are there any, smaller communities around have people working and then maybe working part-time? Is there any way of kind of tapping them to see if that they have anyone on their staff with the kind of qualifications to fill this position who would be interested in taking on a second?
I can send that out to the small town administrators.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe through your listserv.
Through that one committee I was on, I mean, even though some of these people only work 2 days a week, I've been very impressed with some of them. So I would think and hope that we could attract someone like that.
Yeah. Well, I think in general, through your small town administrator listserv, to send a message that way. But any of us that have got contacts and people that we might know of, I think it's fine to just say, hey, look, we've got a position opening. Please get in touch with us at town hall and let us know if you're interested. Because the more we can all spread the word, I think the quicker it'll be to try and corral somebody, hopefully with some skills that we can bring into use here. Okay. Good. Okay. How about, let's see, any other necessary business that can't wait? So I think we've mentioned a couple things. We've got I know there was, Ed, you and I talked about the issue on the PCF also for the COA. Is that going to be for the, what is she, the administrator person? Mary Hatzapetro?
Yeah.
That apparently the COA director thought it was a 3-month appointment, which it was, but 3 months is not exactly 12 weeks, and so it's expiring.
So this is the
And
13th.
to be honest with you, I now have to go back and do some further research because I've been led to believe, I don't know if this is true or not, but this might be a different position than that this person was originally filling, and if that's the case, it needs a PRF. And it has to be posted.
Okay.
And it's not just a renewal of a PCF on a temporary basis, so.
Okay. I thought it was a renewal on from what she had been done before, from what I understood, but I didn't go back and check on it. But, so we've got a couple things like that. But, so right now, PQB is not meeting, though, until the end of the month. Is that right, John?
Third Thursday.
So, okay, well, we'll leave it to you guys to figure out how we handle these things when they're not in schedule like this. Okay, yeah. Rini, question?
I do believe it was a renewal for 12 weeks, just to carry through with the new person so that there's not too much of a void in the COA department. But I just wanted to mention, I meant to mention this when we were talking about the assignments. I'm away on vacation, and I wanted to see whether or not there might be somebody available to go on the July 11th Public Safety Building Committee meeting, just because of the back and forth right now with the select board around letters and that sort of thing. And then the second thing is, It occurred to me when we had the joint meetings with the COA Building Committee and the Public Safety Building Committee that the Senior Center Building Committee has a leg up on this whole process because of the donation, that they'd received a $2.5 million donation. And I don't know whether everybody in the select board is aware of the fact that when the last time we were writing letters to landowners and the whole process was underway with public safety, we had a donor that stepped up willing to give the town $1 million towards the public purchase of the land that was at the time available. And I just, it was mentioned by a couple people whether we should consider all options and perhaps go back to the donor and see whether or not that person might still be interested in donating money for a public safety complex. So I wanted to see what the select board thought of that.
And that meeting is July 11th?
July 11th at 4:30.
But you're really asking two different questions, right?
Right, so one to attend the meeting in your place.
Well, I thought,
And the other was whether or not it would be worth, at this particular point, since we're talking about potentially buying land and/or feasibility study and all of that, whether it might be worth entertaining that person again to see if that might be possible.
Okay, so that hasn't been brought up yet at the committee meeting. You'd want somebody to bring that up at the meeting, is that what you're saying?
Well, I just wanted to bring it up to the select board first,
Okay.
since we're the ones that, you wrote the letter, and I think the letters
Right.
have gone out, if not gone out.
Correct, yeah, why don't I fill people in on that? So yes, I mean, after our last meeting, the RFQ did get posted. Ed did all that he needed to do with posting it on the Central Register and various other places. I sent out letters to the 5 landowners, and actually 6, because I sent one both to Marmon Keystone locally and Marmon Keystone at their corporate headquarters. They were sent both certified mail and regular mail with a form inside saying, please respond to at least one of these inserts by the end of July 27th, I believe, saying that they were interested in talking to us or that they weren't. So those 6 letters went out, I believe, on July 27th. So,
Okay.
I'm sorry, June 27th, and they have a month to respond to us on that part. So that's at least in the works for when you do meet next at your committee level, okay? And I think Ed told me we've got 2 that have responded. So far, we've gotten the certified tab back on 2 of the mails. So 2 of the 6, we've already gotten the certified letter receipt back, so we know at least 2 have got them that way. I decided to also just send them regular mail because sometimes people don't bother to go to the post office, and, you never know. This way, we thought at least there was a better chance of them getting one of them, if not both.
And just while you tickled my brain, just an update on the RFQ for the Senior Center feasibility study. Already received 22 inquiries.
Wow,
Wow,
Asking for
Information.
those documents.
nice, well,
wow.
all right, well, pays to get it out there. Okay, good. Okay, so the question is, first of all, let's take them 2 separately. Could anybody attend, what time is that meeting on the 11th?
It's 4:30.
4:30?
4:30 to 6.
It's an in-person or Zoom or?
It's in person in the second floor conference room usually.
Okay. Maybe, possibly, I don't know. Anybody available to hand, somebody ought to be there probably, and
I could do it.
yeah?
And so whoever does it should talk with Rini exactly
Yeah,
where,
okay,
what she wants us to accomplish.
okay. All right. Are you volunteering to go?
I said I
Okay.
could have done it.
All right. Let's say Francine will attend in your place on that particular meeting, okay?
Thanks, Francine.
Okay, and just send me whatever you have for it.
Yep,
Okay.
all right,
An agenda list.
okay. So then your second question is whether or not there should be an outreach to whoever the person was that wanted to donate money last time toward a complex, is that right?
Correct.
Wasn't that anonymous though?
I don't know.
Wasn't it anonymous? I mean, I don't think that person ever made themselves known who they were.
Sorry.
Does anybody in town actually know?
Yeah, sorry.
Reach out to?
Well, there's a little bit more history to it. It was initially an anonymous donor, and it was a letter from our attorney, from their attorney. And then when it became clear to the select board who the person was, the select board authorized me at the time to go and talk to this person to find out a little bit more about the donation. And for circumstances that were unique to that particular situation, they at that time decided to renege on their donation. So I was approached and asked whether or not it would be worth, when some people watched the select board meeting last time, and they realized that the senior center was a little bit ahead of the game because it already had created the RFQ and is already moving along with the feasibility. They thought maybe it would be worth going back and seeing whether or not that person might still be willing to donate to the town for a public safety complex. So I'm just bringing it to you before it goes to the committee to see how you want it to be handled, if at all.
Okay, any thoughts on that? I mean,
Can't hurt. I don't know.
I mean, we're trying to follow a process, so I want to be mindful of that. We have done that, though. We've done.
But here we're talking about, I'm assuming this is a resident, a member of the community, whether it's a company or an individual, but it's somebody that's within, and we're just going to go ask that one. I mean, if we're going to do a blanket request, fine, but it seems to me that's us going with our hat in our hand to that person asking for the money, and they haven't come forward yet. So, I mean, if they were to come forward, by all means, but to go out and just,
Okay, well,
you said no, you couldn't, but we want to know if any circumstances changed, and are you now willing to give us $1 million?
But I think what Reni's saying is we don't quite understand why they reneged, and would there be interest if the approach was made again by another person, or with more information that would make them more comfortable that this thing is going to happen. I don't know what the issues were at the time, but I mean, they initiated the offer originally. It was not because someone asked them, and then they withdrew it.
Right.
I think it's worth trying.
I think there should be a blanket statement saying, of course, we would take donations, and then whoever is in communication or knows who there might be an anonymous donor should can have a conversation with them, but I don't think it should be on the basis of with the face of select board. I think if they want to give them that information that the town is accepting donations, that it's there, and then whoever can have a conversation with people who they think is interested should do so.
Well, obviously, I think with two major projects, we're going to have major capital campaigns at some point, whether it's going to be, sponsor a room of a facility or, whatever. So I'm just asking whether or not, I'm not sure if this is premature or not, but we did have somebody that, had contacted us, and somebody just asked whether or not it would be worth reaching back out to them. So whether we do it now or later, I just wanted to bring it to this committee and see how you wanted to handle it.
Tough one.
Well, I think there was a point of them being anonymous. Mm-hmm. So we can't say yes or no to go approach people who don't want to be named.
Yeah, right. Yeah. True, yeah. And I don't think select board is really in the position yet to go out and say, person X, do you want to give us some money? So I think maybe to Joy's point, if there's informal communication, but it's just letting people know that this is starting to happen again, rather than asking, hat in hand for money.
So I agree with all that, I mean, if informal conversations happen, they happen. But I also am mindful of the abundance of caution that we used in creating the charge of the new
Yep.
organized
Right.
policing, not to give them the authority to go out.
Correct.
Sidewalk
Yeah.
conversation.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to change that.
No, I agree, yeah.
No, I totally agree. I don't want any informal conversation at all.
Be going out and doing.
Right, yeah. We've got, I don't know, we've got until the 27th, which isn't all that far away, until the letters come back.
Okay.
So I guess my thought would be to wait until we get through this first level of the process,
Okay.
when people
Okay,
come
that
back to
sounds
us with a response to the letters or not, and then.
Okay.
We craft some sort of press release.
Yeah.
and that comes back, that we weave in there. You know,
Yeah.
anybody that wants to,
Right.
anonymous donations, now's the time for tax break.
Exactly. Yeah, and let people know, how they might be able to, have a little tax break. Who knows if we could figure that out. But yeah, I think I'm hesitant to go out from our side right now and try to do that. I think I'd rather follow the process. Let's wait till the responses to the letters come in and see what we have, and then see if it's appropriate to make any overtures to anybody else. But I think letting people know in general that the project is online is fine. That'll come up in your general conversations, that, it's no surprise that we're looking at, these two building committees and what they're doing here. But I think I'd rather be a little cautious for another couple weeks on that, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, anything else? If not, under any other business, how about, there's one old business one, Ed, on the state opioid settlement.
And you would ask to put that out there.
I did. I just opened it up. So just to say, if you all recall, we were asked as one of the towns to sign on to a state opioid settlement with Johnson & Johnson and various others, I believe. And what there has been now is an estimated municipal payment schedule by year, and it actually goes out to 2038, so it's a 15-year scenario. And hang on a second, if I can just find Southampton.
And when do we get our $1.23?
No.
And don't forget that says that that's supposedly the maximum.
It's the maximum, yeah, it's the maximum. So for FY '22, if I got the right year, FY '22, hold on just a second here, this is tiny print. The maximum amount is about $18,000. Then it goes to around $9,600. Then it goes up to $13,000 for a couple years, back down to 8, 9, et cetera. Long story short, if this came to fruition and the maximums were given over the 15-year period, our grand total for that for Southampton looks to be about $162,711 if it were to happen. But at least we've got some notification that things are in the process, and I guess there's still more settlement to be done, but at least.
Yeah, and those funds will have restrictions on how they can be spent and what they.
I believe a lot of it's, yes, they've got to be, a lot of it, I'm pretty sure has got to go toward drug education, those kinds of things, I'm assuming. And so that will tie into to other things.
Side note, I just recently found out, and I guess I wasn't aware of this, so maybe nobody else was, but I wasn't aware that our entire, or a significant portion of our DARE program in town is fully funded by the PTO. Just an interesting observation.
I guess I had heard that at one point, but I didn't have it on my radar screen. Yep, that's true. Yep, still exists. So anyway, so the state opioid settlement, it was worth it. So sometimes when we get all these emails, there are days when we just get bombarded with emails from various places, and it's like, oh, what more do we have to read? But actually, this one might have paid off, that we actually signed this agreement as the town of Southampton, and maybe we'll get a few dollars here and there out of it, which is great. So, nothing totally definitive maybe, but at least they're certainly talking about it, and our name is on the list. So. Okay, no PCFs, PRFs at this point in time. We do have one license to issue, the license permit. Okay, this is a one-day alcohol event for Caitlin Petta for Conant Park on July 9th, Saturday. Wine and malt for a birthday party, I believe it is. Birthday party from 1 o'clock until 8 o'clock. July 9th, and, yep.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
All right, could we have roll call vote? All those in favor?
Lumber, aye.
Tishman, I.
Piper, aye.
Roden, aye.
Fowles, aye. Okay, it's approved, yep. All right, and this person is actually from Holyoke, I believe, so we are getting some, it's interesting the number of out-of-town people that we have coming to rent the pavilion, actually. Okay, so that's been approved, that's good. No warrants?
Motion to approve the minutes of March 29th,
Yep.
2022.
All right, very good, yeah, I didn't see anything in particular there. Could we have a second on that?
Second.
I have a discussion.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. On page 2, I think that's 2, it's cut off the bottom. Under the select board reports, under my report on the ZBA, it just says, generally speaking, approve the special permit. I think we need to, I specified what it was for, was the expansion of the self-storage units on Coleman Road.
Okay,
I think I'd like to see the specifics in the minutes.
yep. Okay. Under the ZBA, so that's on page 2.
Right.
Right.
Underneath ZBA, meant just add for expansion of self-storage units on Coleman Road.
All right. Okay, very good. So with that, we'll have an amended motion to approve the minutes with that change. Do we have a second again?
Second.
Can I say something too?
Okay, yes, Rini, sorry.
Yeah, I think I wanted to just mention on page 3 and the very last point, the bullet point. It says T.A. Gibson reported that there was a meeting yesterday which he missed, but it sounds like Lisa is working on one more item. I think it should say Lisa from the audit firm.
That
Wasn't
would be
that
Lisa
from-
from Kinshirf, I guess, right?
Yeah,
At the very
I
last,
think-
last bullet on the page 3 and under the new business, last bullet.
Yeah.
Lisa is working on one more item, so Lisa from Kinshirf. Okay, all right, okay. All right, so with those two changes, all right. Okay, anything else? If not, I think we have a second on that. Can we have a vote?
Lumber, aye.
Fishman, I.
Piper, aye.
Roden, aye.
Fowles, aye. Okay, very good. Okay, other pending items. We've heard of a couple of them, actually 3 of them tonight. Clearwater,
Can we take the charter building off?
Charter, that's going to be my goal. Yeah, these were my 2 that I've been, wanting to see disappear for a long time. And then the East Street tip proposal, we've gotten information on that too. So a lot of these are going to, we might need to keep them on maybe just one more meeting on the Beagle Club crew. But I think we're making headway to get rid of some of these old pending items. And a couple of the town hall, that's basically the painting and carpentry work that we approved under ARPA that we've got to get done under different circumstances, so it's not really quite as pending here maybe. But I don't know if there's any other pending things. I know Ed and I have worked out a very long list of things that are out there, just follow-ups in general to town meeting and to all sorts of things that have to happen for various procurements and other actions, but there's a lot to be done, no doubt. If anybody has anything, if not, we'll move on for calendar. I think we need to get our meetings for August, and then Ed suggested that we probably need one more meeting before the 15th of July for just one more departmental transfer. So putting us at August, we have a meeting scheduled right now. July 19th is our next regular meeting. 2 weeks out would put us, August is actually our month where we have 3 meetings, 3 possibilities. Right, August 2nd, 16th, and the 30th. How does that sound? And maybe we can try to get the reps in on the 30th. With a little bit of luck, maybe one of them would come. 2nd, 16th, and August 30th, is that okay for everybody?
That sounds good.
You won't be here on the 2nd? Okay, that's all right. Yeah,
I won't be home. I won't be here on the next one, the 19th.
the 19th you're gone? Okay, all right.
Yep.
As long as we've got a quorum, we're doing okay. Yeah. Okay, we try for those? 2/16 and 30? Okay.
I'll be here.
All right, and then how about August? Can we do a short meeting next Tuesday?
The 12th?
That would be the 12th.
I won't
Anybody-
be here.
I will not be available.
No?
Purpose?
The last departmental transfers?
For July 12th?
Yeah, just, or some other time?
I can
12th was okay?
I'm okay.
Yeah? Joy, you're not here?
I will not be here.
Rini, would you be here the 12th?
I am not here.
You're not here the 12th. Okay, so there's 3 of us.
No, I'll be here on the 12th.
Oh, you're here the 12th. Okay.
Load that agenda up.
Yeah, probably. And the 13th is no better for you, is it, Rini? No?
I'm gone from the 9th through the 20th.
Okay, all right. All right, I think we'll have 3 of us, and that's all we need, right?
Yes.
So we'll have John, Francine, and myself then for the 12th of July, for just,
Equal time 6 or different time?
I don't know, you're working, John, 6 o'clock still?
Yeah, it doesn't, 6 o'clock's fine.
6? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll do that. Okay, so we'll cut in that one special meeting just to do the final departmental transfers. That'll be the only item on the agenda.
Yep.
Okay? All right, I think that's all we have tonight, guys. Anything? If not, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right,
Aye.
Fishman, aye.
Piper, aye.
Roden, aye.
Fowles, aye. Okay, we are adjourned at 8:45. Thanks, guys, and to the public listening, sorry, we're going to see what has happened with our microphones, and we'll certainly get them fixed next time, but hopefully you've heard a good share of this. Not sure what's been going on there, but we'll get it fixed. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Thank you.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.